15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
She can run the 40 faster than Tom Brady. He got a perfect score on the Wonderlic. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
In a season of chaos, the Crimson Tide are the conference. Constant excellence. Bama bludgeons the Buckeyes, and Saban steps past Paul Bryant with his 7th national championship.
That was the Alabama 2020-2021 season. Welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff on a day where we got a lot of news, including Nick Saban retiring as the greatest of all time.
As you called it on the show.
Oh, stop. Not about me, but...
If I hadn't said that, would you have jumped in and said, I called it? But you did call it. You get full credit. So now I'm wondering, you're obviously the Bama whisperer. Who's next, Maggie? What do you got on the plate for us?
We will get to all that and who should and will replace Nick Saban. But, to pause on just the end of an era and the end of the sustained excellence that is Nick Saban. And I don't think that there is another college coach who is going to come close to 7 national titles. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. One, I think Saban is unique in his ability to get the most out of players, the ability to change and evolve as college football changed and evolved. And there's so many reasons why he's one of one. I also think there's a change in college football. I think the entire sport really is changing before our eyes, Perloff, as it has in the past, but in a new type of way with this 12-team college football playoff. With NIL, the transfer portal is only going to become bigger and bigger. And I think there's just this sea change where we're not going to get the type of dynasties that Nick Saban has been oversaw at Alabama for 17 years and then beyond.
I know it feels that way. Like no one's ever going to catch Nick Saban because it took him a long time to catch Bear Bryant. But I just think that we get caught up in the moment. Listen, how old is Kirby Smart?
40s.
He's got 2. He probably would have won a third this year if things had bounced a little bit. They probably would have beaten Michigan. I just think that it's not. I understand your logic. It makes perfect sense. But things happen. Like we never saw Nick Saban. I mean, who would have? If I told you when he got caught up in all that mess about leaving the Dolphins that he was going to go on to be the greatest college football coach of all time, you would have laughed. And that's not that long ago. It's 12 years. So my point is things change. History is very fluid. And right now, it seems like he is way ahead of everybody else in college football coaching. You know how this is. It felt that way with Belichick, and that's already been chipped away. Felt that, things change. Right now, he's definitely the GOAT. But I wonder in 50 years, are we going to look back and say Nick Saban was by far the greatest college football coach of all time? I just know how things change, and I'm not sure. Right now, he's clearly ahead. This is a day to celebrate Nick Saban. But I'm telling you, someone's going to chase him. It always happens. There's always someone, Maggie.
I know, Prof, but I don't want to be accused of being prisoner of the moment just by saying that I think I've seen the greatest of all time. No. Because, listen, are there coaches that have more wins than him? Sure. Is there coaches that have like a better winning percentage? It's not like he has every unassailable record. But I do think that the combination, again, of like if you went to Alabama when Nick Saban started, if you signed with the Tide and you played 4 years there, you won a title. Like that kind of stuff, I just don't think that is going to happen again. To have the top recruiting classes 10 times since 2010, like this, it's just the consistency, like the fact that like there was never a bottom out. There was never a reset. There was never my offensive coordinator left and now I'm in disarray. Like, and we lost 5 games. Like it just never happened.
But let me ask
Saban, and I think it will happen to the next person.
What is it that Nick Saban does that is so much better than every other coach of all time?
I think evolve in the sport.
Okay.
You want to say something else?
No, I mean, just like it's not so obvious is my point. Evolve. Okay, I know where this prisoner of the moment thing is. This is about Mike Sealski, isn't it?
No.
The Philadelphia Inquirer columnist who said that we were too recency biased on our list.
Let me ask you a question. I'm not thinking about that. No, but
let me ask you a question. Who's the greatest NFL coach of all time?
It's Belichick.
Who's the greatest college basketball coach of all time? What's the name that jumps?
Probably John Wooden.
Yeah, I thought you might say Coach K. Who's the greatest NBA player of all time?
I mean, you and I will have a Jordan debate from now to the end of time, but do you want me to say Kareem? Like, I don't know where you're going with this.
LeBron, my point is we get caught up in the moment of the GOATs. And I'm older than you, and I've seen GOATs change really fast. Right now, Nick Saban's the unassailable GOAT. In 15 years, I wonder if it's going to be so obvious that Nick Saban was the GOAT. Because I think he's got a thinner margin of GOAT than some other GOATs. For example, an ESPN put out a list in 2019, right before the Mac Jones title, and he was 2 behind Bear Bryant. And you look at Bear Bryant's resume, it's crazy. Although Bear Bryant, of course, had a lot of other issues. The whole sport had some societal issues. But regardless, I just think that Nick Saban, yes, he's the GOAT, but I think it's a pretty thin line right now.
See, but what changed, right? Saban won that 7th title, and that put him beyond Bear Bryant. And
it was one title makes such a big difference on this list?
I think that people started looking at it a little bit more closely. And, you're looking at like what Nick Saban did with, like, you're doing 3 and 4 years. You're doing, 4 and 7. Like for Bear Bryant, it was 4 and 13 and then 3 and 5. But Alabama had much more like sustained success in like mini dynasties within those dynasties. Bear Bryant kind of has 2 separate times, right? He has the early ones and then the later ones for his time at Alabama. I think that Nick Saban, better run. So 3 championships in 4 years, and then you had 4 championships in 7 years, as opposed to Bear Bryant's 4 and 13, and then 3 and 5. I mean, Nick Saban has the better winning percentage than Bear Bryant. Like, I think it was out of respect to Bear Bryant that you would compare the two, and then once Saban passed him on the titles list, you start looking more and more into their resumes and stack them up, and Nick Saban, I think, was way out in front.
Wow, yeah. Way out in front?
Well, SEC titles, the teams that he had to beat to get to SEC championships. Yeah,
but also
like Bear Bryant wasn't beating ranked teams in SEC championship games. Like, that wasn't happening then.
So in your mind, it's not even close?
It's
got to be close because they have almost the same number of championships.
Okay, it could be close, Perloff, but I can say that Nick Saban passed him. So
he did.
There's nothing else Bear Bryant could do to his resume to make it look better. Unfortunately, his time has passed here. And I think you mentioned the societal issues. Like, on the one hand, you could, say to Bear Bryant, listen, you created the mystique that is Alabama, right? And you're the one who put that program, I guess, on the map, so to speak. But look at what Saban had to deal with. Roster constraints. You have practice time constraints. You have all these things that, NIL, transfer portal, like it's a totally different job than it was when Bear Bryant had it.
Yeah, but also Alabama was granted these 1-loss trips to the title game too, because they were Alabama. So
yeah, but they also couldn't share in any SEC title games, and Bear Bryant could have a share of SEC title games. That happened several times.
I think there was certain advantages once Alabama got rolling. They almost made it with 2 losses a couple years ago, and this year. Listen, if they might not have made it this year, and they were Alabama. So I'm just saying, they did the Final Four. Like, reputation helped play part of those championships. There are very few undefeated championships.
You're right, and we'll see what happens with Georgia here, and if Kirby Smart just takes this and runs with it. But we were saying that about Clemson. And Clemson, which also was a team that felt like every year in the college football playoff challenging for a national title. And look at what's happened. Like, they're not getting that same Alabama, if you want to call it a benefit of the doubt or whatever, because they're just not winning as much.
I just don't think it's unthinkable that anyone's going to get to 7 titles. Because I do think the 12 could kill you, but it also means that Georgia's going to be in the tournament every year. And who knows, whoever takes over to Alabama is going to be in the tournament every year. And if a coach comes in, he's 45, he's going to get a lot of bites at the apple.
No, I get it, but you also have more instances where you're tripping up. And, now if we're going to have this postseason bracket, and then where does it go from there? This is eventually, what do we think? It's going to turn into the NFL with like an AFC and an NFC, the Big Ten and the SEC, divisions, something like that. And look at what's happened now in the NFL. Like, once Brady and the Belichick dynasty, you have Patrick Mahomes, like, and Andy Reid, an all-time great coach and player combination. But you and I talk about this all the time. like, how many dynasties are we going to have in professional sports now?
Very few.
It feels
Absolutely.
very rare. Why wouldn't college follow that same trend?
Your reasoning is great. I think I'm playing a little devil's advocate
You
here.
should.
I just know in 2020, there was no doubt Bill Belichick was the greatest NFL coach of all time. I've already seen in 3 years that idea take a major hit when Tom Brady left and he won a Super Bowl without Belichick.
Yeah, I never understood why that counts against Belichick.
You know why. I mean, you understand, right? Like, you understand that argument. You saying that it's not about, and if Belichick takes another job and loses, then he's gonna be back in the mix with Bill Walsh and Vince Lombardi. He's gonna be battling for the GOAT title.
Well, we can talk about Belichick another time.
But I
this
think
is
it's
about Saban.
very similar dynamic. First of all, they're twins.
Yeah,
they're the same person. I just think that right now it feels like, and we're going to have the Saban biographer, Monty Burke, on.
Yeah.
Right now it feels like there's no one who'll ever catch Saban. I just think that Saban's hold on the GOAT title is a little thinner than other people think. I do think, first of all, I've never saw a Bear Bryant coach. I have no idea what he was doing. But also, the funny thing is, I look at Nick Saban and I ask you, what is the one thing that he did that was better than everybody else? And you said evolve. Like, that's not like Paul Brown reinventing the game. I don't know. That feels like it's hard for me to understand his legacy. Like, what was he? So he's a great defensive coach. He was a great
coverages.
He was a
and stuff like that?
great recruiter. But it's interesting, like, what makes him the greatest college football coach? I still feel like it's a bit of a mystery, which is weird because we've seen a lot of Nick Saban. I don't think it's so easy to define this man's legacy in one foul swoop. Like Bill Belichick, we know a little bit more about what he did that was superior. He sort of game planned everybody. Everything was buttoned up. What is Nick Saban's specialty? It's not so obvious an answer.
I think that it's every tenant, we're talking about Nick Saban, who announced his retirement yesterday. I think that it's because there's so many different facets to being a coach, and he nailed all of them. Like, you're right. It's recruiting. It's making sure that you're the CEO, basically, of a massive company. It's being able to evolve. It's being able to replace your offensive coordinators when they leave to get bigger jobs. It's your coaching tree. It's the amount of All-Americans that you were able to coach. It's the amount of guys that you sent to the NFL, which Nick Saban's like second to none with just the 49 first-round picks that he sent to the NFL, let alone the rest of the guys. I'm saying all these things add up.
You could also say
and he was elite at all of them.
That's funny about the NFL thing. Then you could say, well, he had better talent than everybody. So is that coaching?
Well, I think it's both, because college football, I think, is about Jimmies and Joes, not X's and O's. And then I do think at times it has to be about game planning. And I think it's about constantly keeping the cupboard full. And I think also, you didn't even mention the fact that he is a great motivator. So he gets the team fired up. Saying all the compliments of rat poison and all the sayings that he had. Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting. But it's funny, a couple other things I think about when I think of Nick Saban. Yeah. Fear and intimidation? No, that I think his reputation, you're hearing a lot of stories about him being a good man, too, because one example is that he hired Steve Sarkisian when Steve Sarkisian was having major personal problems. Sure. And I heard Sark say that Nick Saban just said, I'm here for you, I'll do whatever. So he has a lot of people are saying good things about him as a person, which is not what you expect in this era of college football. Well, and then you think about it, no major scandals. Yeah, not that, I mean, I'm sure if we dig, there could be, listen, this is a major college football program. There's probably things. And Jimbo Fisher basically said as much when they had their tete-a-tete, going back and forth 2 years ago. Yeah. And he said, listen, I know where the skeletons are baried and all of that. And I'm sure if we dig, we're going to find something. But I'm not saying on the level of a Joe Paterno where this calls into question and makes you paint somebody. That's obviously an extreme, but paint somebody who you thought you knew in a totally different way. Yeah, I find that scenario very unlikely. A couple other things about him that he said he wasn't going to do spread offense. He's like, I'm not going to do this when he was secretly building a spread offense empire. Like, he's sneaky. Yeah. Nick Saban says one thing, is doing the exact opposite. That's one of his great skills. And, says basically like, we can't keep up with NIL. Tells you guys we can't keep up. Meanwhile, now that the job is open, what's the one thing people are saying? It's like, you'll have more resources than any other program. Well, we can't keep up with NIL, but we just happen to have the number one recruiting class like 3 out of 4 years. And one more thing we were talking about last night. Yeah. I think his ability to win titles with crappy quarterbacks is also unprecedented. Because I was looking at some of the guys he won with. He won with Greg McElroy, AJ McCarron, Jake Coker, Matt Malk at LSU was the quarterback. Jamarcus wasn't the quarterback for him. So he kind of I think he liked to coach up a slightly less talented team. And I mean that as a great comment. Like, when he had Bryce Young in the Heisman Trophy winner, he couldn't quite get over the hump. He could also take guys who weren't
overly talented and just motivate them and do a great job coaching.
Yeah, I remember seeing a Nick Saban quote from a couple years ago where he said, it used to be that if you had a great defense, you could always beat a good offense.
Yeah.
He said, and that's just not the case anymore in college football.
Yeah.
And you had to, and that was one of the realizations, and that's why you go and make sure you have Tua Tagovailoa on your roster, and that's why you have Bryce Young.
But he had Mac Jones, who was a 2.5-star recruit, tennis player, basically, McCorkle Jones, and won a title. And this year, Jalen Milroe, they could barely pass the ball, and this was one of his great jobs. Is it ironic he's coming off such a high? Everyone said this is one of Nick Saban's great coaching jobs.
Well, he said that.
Oh, I thought we said that.
He said that. He said this was the one he was most proud of, I believe, is the way he put it. Yeah. I think because he knew he was leaving, too. I think he was kind of there had to be something that turned where you go from a grind to I'm going to stop and appreciate all this.
Yeah, but he came into this year with 3 quarterbacks.
No, I know.
And he didn't even know who was going to play quarterback. So I think there's a great reason to say it was a great coaching job this year. They were a very limited team, and they were one play away, maybe 1 or 2 plays away from getting to the final game, which they could have won. So it is amazing. Yeah, you pinned me into this corner where I'm saying negative things about Nick Saban.
I think that he's put listen, is there tons of distance between him, Bear Bryant, Tom Osborne, who you want to talk, all these great coaches? It's not tons of daylight, but it's there. And I think the next iteration of college football is going to make it even harder for the next guy to be in the conversation.
So Kirby Smart's 48. Yeah. He's going to get in the playoff every year from now on. Yeah. He could get to 6.
But now you got to win how many playoff games? Like before you had to win 2.
Right. So you have
an SEC championship game and then two playoff games to win. Now it's going to be
the way it's stacked. You have to win 3 if you're one of the top 4 teams.
Plus an SEC championship game.
Yes, but they're going to...
Which always feels like a de facto...
why do you
have
to,
a playoff game.
But you don't have to win the SEC championship game to get the playoff.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but that first game,
still a big game.
If the SEC stays dominant, then you'll get a chippy in the opening round. I just think it is possible. It feels impossible right now. It feels like Nick Saban is so far ahead of everybody. And I think where I disagree with you a little bit is that it often feels that way at the end of a career, and then time changes that. Now, I'm not going to say he's not the GOAT because there's no logical argument for that. There really isn't.
No, the numbers, the accolades.
I'd like to come out here and say Nick Saban's not the GOAT, but the fact that he redefined himself, you said it well. What is the best thing about him? He evolved.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Had a lot of GOAT talk lately with Tom Brady retiring.
Yeah.
Now we have Nick Saban. Let's see what happens with Belichick. I mean, even Pete Carroll, who is not considered a GOAT. But man, I mean, in some ways, I feel a little, I would say bad for Pete Carroll. But yesterday, that's the second biggest news, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. And it kind of gets overshadowed by Saban, even though Pete Carroll is on an extremely short list of guys to win a college championship and a Super Bowl.
Incredible legacy. Let me ask you a question as the Nick Saban's retiring whisperer.
Yeah.
So Belichick and Nick
Saban trends.
Bill Belichick and Nick Saban have been tied together forever. Best friends. Belichick hired him in Cleveland in the 90s. So is there any chance Belichick does the same exact thing? Like their twin careers continue to follow the same path? Any chance Belichick walks away after Nick did and they go fishing or whatever they do?
Watch film. Let's talk about that next. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. You are welcome to weigh in on Nick Saban. I think he's the GOAT, and this is it. Perloff, not sure. The trend of sports would tell you Perloff is actually right about this one, that we say the GOAT now, but somebody's always coming down the pipeline for you, right? We never thought there'd be another Michael Jordan, and we do have LeBron James, right? You never think you're going to have another guy in the moment, but never thought you'd have another Joe Montana, and here comes Tom Brady. It happens. 855-212-4CBS. You can also watch the show, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio. We say a good morning to all of our CBS Sports Radio affiliates across the country who we love. Sirius XM Channel 158 and the absolutely free to download and crystal clear Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free. Sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Thank you, Nick Saban, for waiting a couple days to announce your retirement so we can spread out our content appropriately over the week.
Yeah,
I think
he's thinking about us.
He actually, it seems like he didn't want to take the shine away from the national title game, A-Rod style, and gave this a couple days to breathe. There was a report, too, that there were some weather issues. He wanted to do it yesterday.
He waited 2 days.
Yes.
The national championship was Monday.
Well, he clearly decided after the Final Four game. I would imagine the way people work, he must have decided after Jalen Milroe got stuffed at the line. He's like, all right, I'm out.
See, I wonder, the first time I ever thought Nick Saban might be retiring, and welcome to the show, by the way, is when I found out the story that he took his family on a vacation to Italy. I was like, oh, this guy's out. Like, he's starting to smell the roses, which, by the way, he has every right to at 72. And I was like, maybe he's starting to see, or maybe his family might be telling him, like, hey.
Yeah.
You know, and according to Chris Lowe, who broke the story for ESPN, talked to Saban, and he did say, like, I still want to have a high quality of life in my retirement to do the things that I want to do. Now, Deion Sanders had a little bit of a different take on why he thought that Nick Saban retired. We'll get to that in a minute. Jordan is in Alabama. Has got a thought on this? Good morning, Jordan.
Yeah, hey, first, before I talk about the timing of Nick Saban's retirement announcement, excuse me, I'd like to say that, Andrew asked the question, what was he better at than any other coach? And it's recruiting. I mean, for almost every year that he was at Alabama, he was in the top 5 recruiting, and most years he was number 1. And a lot of Alabama people say, like, this would be a really unattractive job because of who you're having to follow up. But at the same time, unlike most jobs, there's no rebuild that's going to be required with this. So I don't really think Alabama's going to take too much of a step backwards in that regard.
Jordan, it's interesting because I'm going to keep you on, but there's a 30-day window now that opens for Alabama players if they want to transfer now that Nick Saban is retired. And they already lost one 5-star recruit, and I believe they already have kids who are – listen, there were some kids who were going to hit the portal anyway. To say that there's going to be no backslide at all with recruiting, I think is overly optimistic. But listen, it's still Alabama. There's still the one of the biggest brands in college football.
But I think they have Jalen Milroe coming back and they have Caden Proctor coming back. I mean, it is an attractive. If Milroe still comes back, that's the question. Jordan, is it still Alabama without Nick Saban? Do they still have that recruiting advantage if he's gone, though?
Well, Milroe has already announced on a local station down here that he is returning to Alabama next year.
He's staying.
So, so we got that going for us. And I guess the big picture recruiting is, can we keep the number 1 quarterback prospect that we got, 5-star Julian Sayin from Carlsbad, California?
Wait, Jordan,
Jordan, years down the road.
You're in Alabama. Who do you want to be the next coach? Who's the guy that Alabama Crimson Tide fans want next?
Well, when I think about it, there's several names that are floating out there, but I just try to think of it. Okay, if they announce this coach tomorrow, who would be the guys that would excite me? And I think the top 3 guys that would excite me is probably Lane Kiffin and then Mike Norvell. And then I don't think there's a good chance they could get Sarkisian, but I think there's a better chance that they could get Sarkisian than Kirby Smart. I mean, Kirby Smart, it's not even worth talking about,
right?
Honestly. But, the biggest name down here is currently Dan Lanning.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't really sit well with me as a fan, the fact that he lost 2 games this past season to Washington, when we all know in college football it's hard to beat the same team twice in 1 year. That's one of the hardest things that there is to do in college football.
Yeah.
But,
Jordan, I mean, listen, both
but-
incredibly close games.
Yeah.
I mean, Oregon and Washington ends up making it to the championship game. Jordan, appreciate you weighing in and stay in touch with the show because curious about Alabama. There was a moment I thought Crimson Tide fans were going to be reasonable and rational about this, and then clearly that's not going to be the case.
Well, it's funny.
Your top 3 candidates are 3 guys who have 3 amazing jobs.
And it's funny too. I think we're all in the same boat. It's not. It does. I don't think it's unrealistic. Everyone's immediately. We all say the same thing. I think our text thread says, "Oh boy, they're going to be nervous in Oregon because."
No, I know.
Yeah.
So Dan Lanning, has maybe in terms of resources and what he's built at Oregon, you might rivals anyone.
But nobody stays at Oregon. There must be a reason.
Okay, but
right?
you're about to go to the Big Ten too. This changes.
Is that good or bad?
You always like to talk about the older people who want to see a championship, like. Jerry Jones. It's like Phil Knight. I mean, is there any doubt he would push all the cards in the middle of the table?
Pay him whatever he wants.
Right. And then you have Mike Norvell, who I can understand just got totally hosed in the college football playoff selection committee. Florida State goes undefeated. He doesn't make it. Here's the thing about Lane Kiffin, and we can talk more about this, and we could do a whole deep dive on Lane Kiffin. It makes all the sense in the world. He's a guy who could never try to do a Saban impersonation. He's got his own style. Yeah. He's got a great offense. Like, he's been fired before. I don't think that this would be devastating to him. He's kind of been through a lot of the ups and downs of college football. He got fired from Alabama. Like, is the same athletic director who fired him going to bring him back now in a career-defining move for this athletic director?
It'd be funny to go from probably the most serious, well-respected coach in college football history, Nick Saban, to Lane Kiffin. I mean, come on. Because you say Lane Kiffin, everyone smiles and go, oh, Lane Kiffin.
See, I think that's good, though.
No,
you're so anti-Saban.
Yeah, I mean, Kiffin's got his team coming back at Ole Miss. He might not be that. He's got Jackson Dart coming back.
No, I think Lane Kiffin would take the job 100%.
I think so, but Sark, obviously, that's interesting. They said Sark would not leave Texas for Alabama.
I don't think so.
But I understand that. Like, he's got, unless he could take Arch Manning with him. That is interesting. That caller brought up Julian Sayin. ESPN did a huge feature on this kid. He's a movie quarterback. He's a 6'5" kid from California who is grown up wanting to play at Alabama. I'm really curious. That's a great question. That's what there's so many this is a crucial 2 weeks for Alabama.
What I thought was wild is that Jordan, who just called us from Alabama, as we're talking about a short list to replace Nick Saban, didn't say Dabo.
Yeah, nobody wants Dabo. Right? The dude won't use the transfer portal. Why would you want him?
He won a championship at Alabama. And he has proven that he's a championship coach.
I think you take Jimbo back before you take Dabo right
crazy.
now.
Andrew Bogish is here. Did anything else happen yesterday?
A few things. Yeah. It's all sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save nearly $750 on average. Call or click today and find out if we could save you hundreds on your car insurance.
Chipotle?
Yes, Nick Saban retiring from Alabama, the third and final major story yesterday. Came rapid fire. Saban preceded by Pete Carroll no longer being the Seahawks head coach.
For all my guys, I think you know how much I probably competed for our perspective and our standpoint and all of that. I freaking didn't back off for an instant.
Yeah, Carroll wanted to return for a 15th season. The team instead says he'll stick around as a consultant. And before all of that, there was Kawhi Leonard's 3-year, $153 million extension with the Clippers. Just don't ask Kawhi about the future.
I'm in a moment in this season, and I'm trying to get us to a place we haven't been before. And that's what I'm focused on.
The Clippers did stay hot last night, a 126-120 decision over the Raptors. LA has now won 7 of 8, 16 of 19. Kawhi and Paul George each scored 29. And P.S. there are extension talks with PG-13 continuing here as well.
God, a lot of money flying around.
Yeah, Steve Ballmer. I mean, the funny thing about Kawhi, I guess he was his contract was up next year.
Yeah, he and George basically have the same contract.
Yeah, they do. And they're making the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So I think we can guess what the next contract's going to be for Paul George.
Yeah, but the funny thing is Kawhi's turning 33. He's had 1 million playoff games in his life. That's an old 33. He is going to be way over. 35-year-old Kawhi Leonard getting $50 million. Is this good? This feels like he's too old to get that much money.
I don't know. Now that he's actually playing games, he's still playing at a high level.
For playing games for now, do you really think he's going to be healthy for this 3-year, $150 million?
Is anyone going to be healthy? I mean, I don't believe he will be, and
He's
I think less.
Quite old.
I think Paul George is even less of an less of a shot.
Who's not young either. And then you got James Harden is not young. Are you going to do my team though?
Which team is that? I'm confused.
Yes, I know you'd be confused.
Yeah,
Did anyone see Zion Williamson put on a display on ABC last night? Because, oh man, am I back on that Pelicans bandwagon?
You're the worst. The Jazz beat the Nuggets 124-111. Utah's won 9 of 11. The Celtics outlasted the T-Wolves 127-120. In overtime, the Spurs didn't lose because they were in Detroit, 130-108. Wemby, 16 points, 12 boards, and 10 assists in just 21 minutes. And yes, the Pelicans did smoke the Warriors in San Francisco, 141-105.
Zion must have lost 15 pounds in the last 3 weeks. I could not believe the player that was on the court last night, which makes me nervous. Nobody goes up and down more than him, and he was up last night. And, man, I'm back. I'm back, Maggie.
But we can't keep track of all your bandwagoning. I know you do love Zion.
I love Zion. Who's with me on Zion? Don't you guys enjoy watching this guy play? He's so unusual.
We do, but nobody trusts that he's going to be able to have a big career.
I know. It's disappointing.
I mean, seriously, 3 days ago, EJ would have been basically slobbering over Zion. You go, well, he's going to be a Knick and he's going to be hurt. Like, you just crushed the Zion dream, and now you're asking us to join in the Zion dream.
Nobody follows Zion's weight. Perloff is like one of those people who weighs like the showgirls in Vegas or something. Like, you are so
what job?
Measuring their waists. You're obsessed with Zion's weight.
Right, because he's so explosive.
No, I know.
Last night, he switched on his Steph Curry. He's like, I'm going to cover this guy. And he was running around after Steph Curry for a while. He looks great right now. I just don't trust him.
Warriors are really...
What's going
cooked.
on?
This is not great.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, I put the Warriors and the Lakers. Like, is it going to end well this year? Lakers probably a little better, but that's been up and down.
I'm telling you, I think that I think I'm on a little bit of a heater right now because I called the Nick Saban retirement the day after they lost.
Yeah, what do you got?
In the semifinal? I'm calling it with the Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr retired. Okay.
Last season with the Warriors. And maybe he goes to do TV or something, and maybe he coaches somewhere else, but I think this might be it. No, I'm not. I don't think. I think this is it for Steve Kerr, in my opinion.
Does he finish the season?
Yeah.
Maybe. Or does he go, hey, you know what, this is just not working?
No, they have to do something at the trade deadline. Like, if you have Steph Curry, he's still playing well. Like, there's still a move that the Warriors have to make.
I don't know. They suck. And they really do.
Well, Draymond is back on the sideline now. He'll be back in games soon enough.
That might help. I mean, they're 17 and 20. They're 2 games out of the 10 spot.
Yeah, watch your
out of the 10 spot.
Yeah, I mean the Lakers are in the 9 spot, and they made the conference finals and be in the play-in tournament. So I don't know. It's NBA regular season. Does it matter?
I wonder if Draymond's worked on his windmill punch.
Well, he better get loose, because he's coming back soon.
Right. Another night of upsets in men's college basketball. Number 3, Kansas falling at UCF 65-60. Bill Self's team usually scores 80 a night.
We didn't do a good job of penetrating the zone or getting the ball in the high post. When we did, we got some looks. We didn't make them, but we got some looks. But yeah, we were awful against their zone.
This is UCF's first ever Big 12 win. Number 5, Tennessee went down to Mississippi State 77-72. 9th ranked Oklahoma losing at TCU 80-71. And number 11 Marquette fell at home to Butler 69-62.
No. You're telling me 4 top 11 teams lost yet last
4 out of the top 5.
Yeah, and we had
in the last 48 hours.
Yeah, 5 top 10 teams.
None of your teams, Perloff.
No, just wait. They'll find a way to get on the Purdue bandwagon.
I can never root for Kansas. Like, does anyone jump on the Kansas bandwagon? No.
Who jumps on the Houston bandwagon?
Who jumps on the Tar Heels bandwagon?
Tar Heel. Everyone loves the Tar Heels.
No, they do, but usually those people are lifelong. The Tar Heels are their team, full stop. They're one of your teams.
I think nationally the Tar Heels are very popular. Houston, I like because nobody is. I'm alone on that bandwagon. Nobody's a Houston Cougar fan. Now,
I didn't hear much about it until they started getting ranked in the top 3, not even top 5.
I have the visual proof. I am a long-time Houston. I'm talking 6 years, Maggie.
I mean, to be fair, Perloff and I did get to go to a Houston Cougars
Oh yeah, Tillman Fertitta had us in his house.
Party. It was dope. If that was me and I was in high school, I would have committed on the spot. But then again, I love sushi. I had a lot of it. And indoor basketball courts. And they were giving out slippers.
You did say afterwards, you're like, should we get all in on Dana Holgerson and the Cougars? I'm like, they don't have a quarterback this year. Let's wait a year.
And it turns out he's gone.
Yeah. So anyway, Houston basketball, though, you can trust them. Bogus, get on board. We're going to drive. After we could drive to San Antonio, we'll drive over to Houston and see a game.
Look, now you're in the car.
Texas two-step. I'm in.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was quick.
And then we'll go up to Oklahoma City, see my guy Chet.
I'm your new Zion. I'm back in. I'll be out in fat soon.
He's on the bogus bandwagon now, and he's going to jump off.
So you really want to drive to Texas, don't you?
It comes and goes now.
But I feel like we all have young kids at home. Like dads are like, yeah, you get out of the house and go watch sports. Yes. Pilati, if I could take you away from your young kids right now for a month.
Well, just for the quiet bed time.
Yeah.
That would I'll sign up on that.
I got to be honest. You guys, like just men, you guys really catch on very quick on a lot of things. And I noticed this because my 4-year-old son has finally learned the trick of going in the bathroom and shutting the door and locking it. Just like my husband will disappear in the bathroom when he needs some peace and quiet just for 30 minutes.
Locking the door.
Are you sick? It's like, no, I'm just hanging out in there. I just need a break.
Yep.
That being said, so your 4-year-old kid is locking the bathroom door? How many?
No, he's just shutting it.
Oh, because
with an enthusiastic slam.
Because when Mark or baby, they would lock the door. I'm like, oh crap, are we gonna have to call a locksmith? They have no idea how to get out of here.
Timmy did that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, no, it's a dangerous situation.
We were like, oh, how's he gonna? And he got out. He got out on his own.
Yeah, you got it. Well, it's just usually this.
Well, my lock is weird, so he was able to work it and get it. I was like, oh, good for you.
When you say he got out on his own, it's like you guys just left him there, and all of a sudden he was back in the living room.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
But Maggie, you don't like road trips at all.
No, I don't like being. I don't.
You don't
like
to drive an hour.
No, I don't. I dislike it. It's uncomfortable to be in the car that long, and it's boring.
Yeah.
And
the three of us
I'd rather
we
fly.
have great conversations.
The other thing that's funny too, like we all know, dads are like, we can leave and the family's okay. If the mom leaves for a week,
that's it. It's all over.
I know.
That's it.
Put the wagons in a circle.
Game over. Put the kids up for adoption if the mom has to leave for a week. There's no dad I know who can do a week.
It's amazing. And yeah.
Not to go into gender stereotypes, but we all know the deal. No offense, Pilati. I'm sure you're a great dad, but you are a B player in that household.
That's right. Maybe B plus, but not A plus.
I don't know. You give Pete a week alone with his 2 kids, and he might have a really fully functioning newsroom going.
That's right.
Yeah.
I got them cutting tape
Making
when
a
I was
schedule.
Exactly.
When I was on paternity. I got them cutting tape, so we're getting there.
A dad weekend means lots of pizza and staying up late.
That's right. Lots of ordering out, no cooking.
Yeah, my wife's out today, and I didn't even for a second consider making something. It's like, kids, where are we ordering tonight?
Peanut butter jelly?
Hot dogs, mac and cheese? All right, let's do it.
Oh, pizza. Let's go get pizza.
Back in the NFL, the Titans head coaching search taking some shape. They'll be interviewing Detroit coordinators Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, Ravens DC Mike McDonald, plus Dan Quinn and Antonio Pearson. From the NHL, the Avalanche blanked the Golden Knights 3-0. Nathan McKinnon as an assist, so he has a point in all 23 home games so far this season. Guys, back to you.
Andrew Bogish, thank you. The news coming fast and furious. The biggest one, obviously, Nick Saban retiring. Also, Pete Carroll forced out in Seattle. We've got so much to do. Coming up, what did Deion Sanders have to say about Nick Saban and his retirement? We've got that for you, plus the Vegas odds on who will be the next head coach for the Crimson Tide. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Do you believe that? Dion. You believe that?
This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. Been a while since we had a Daily Dion action. Oh, I've missed you. Deion Sanders reacting to Nick Saban's retirement yesterday on social media, Perloff. He said, "Wow, college football just lost the GOAT to retirement. Wow. I knew it would happen one day soon, but not this soon. The game has changed so much that it chased the GOAT away. College football, let's hold up our mirrors and say honestly what you see." Tagged it with his own Coach Prime. So It's interesting, right? Because if we think that Nick Saban retired because of all these changes that are coming to college football, maybe that's part of it. But nobody adapted to the changes in college football maybe better than Nick Saban. His outwardly, stern demeanor and his old school sort of tactics, I think really hid somebody who was constantly trying to evolve his program.
Yeah, it didn't seem like NIL was killing him. They made the Final Four this year. That's a funny quote from Deion because he is sort of the face of these new changes, transfer portal, and less so NIL, but he certainly uses transfer portal. Everyone keeps saying the schedules are much harder for college football coaches now. Like they have to work harder and more months of the year. That makes sense. Although I do think that Saban's been flirting with ESPN for a long time. I think that 5 years ago, he was sort of talking to ESPN. It seemed like he was starting to appear on there a lot.
Yep.
So I don't sense that what is happening this say it's 2 years of NIL and transfer portal. I don't think that pushed him out. I think he might have been headed this way anyway.
Listen,
am I being naive?
No, I mean, he's 72. It's you can't really fault the guy. But the other part is he has railed against college football. He has definitely criticized it. He was one of those coaches who was on Capitol Hill over the summer, trying to talk about legislation for NIL and all that. So we won't pretend like Nick Saban thought everything was right with college football. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders also tweeting, Alabama players tap in. And I was thinking about this. So the odds were released by several places about who will be the next Alabama Crimson Tide head coach. And who has the fourth highest odds? Deion Sanders, tied with Kalen DeBoer, the Washington Huskies coach who just appeared in the national championship game, tied with Kalen DeBoer at 6-1. I'll say this about Deion Sanders. I think it's ludicrous that he'd be the next head coach of Alabama. Not ludicrous, but I can't see him being the next head coach of Alabama. But if Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL and you have Saban retiring, I mean, Deion's the face of college football. He probably becomes the most powerful college football head coach, right?
Ooh, powerful and define power.
Well, it's going to take a few things.
He already gets the most headlines by 50-fold.
Right.
So he's that face of the college football, but I still think Kirby Smart and these other guys still have a lot of power.
I'm sure they do, but I get the sense, I don't know how much does Kirby Smart use the power, right? Is he somebody, he was out there with the bowl season talking about how, this was embarrassing that Florida State's players all basically transferred out and no-showed and Georgia beat the brakes off of them, and that's not a good thing for college football. So he took a stand there, but...
Yeah, no, I don't think he gets into that ball game at all. I just think that he's in a position to win a lot of titles. So, and there are other coaches too. Deion might be the face of it. If I'm Deion, I'm not. I think Deion's in a great spot because he goes in that Big 12 schedule next year.
Yeah.
I don't think he should come to Alabama because that's going to be a hard place for him to win compared to what he has at Colorado right now. Believe it or not.
No, I hear what you're saying. The only thing is if you're worried about the future of the Big 12, do you?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right? Yeah.
Listen, if you're going to a 12-team college football playoff, they're going to get teams in to the postseason.
This is Deion, and I'd almost go year by year. I'd almost look at where am I next year because there's pressure on him to make the playoffs to sort of meet the hype. Sure. It'd be good. He has Shedeur coming back. Who knows if he'll ever get another Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. It seems to be working out really well for them next year. I don't think he should switch to Alabama. He's already got a good thing going in my mind. And even say Michigan was opened up and they called Deion. That is not a program you want right now. If Harbaugh leaves and J.J. McCarthy's gone, why would Deion get in there? He's already got his team.
No, I don't see Deion going to Michigan. Yeah. I don't see that. But at some point, you just saw what happened to the ACC with Florida State. And again, that's not going to happen anymore because of the 12-team playoff. And it probably wouldn't have happened if Jordan Travis, the quarterback, hadn't gotten hurt. But if you're not in the Big Ten or the SEC, you're kind of feels like you're swimming upstream for clout.
Absolutely. I'm really interested too. There's one name that we have not mentioned. What if Alabama's we can't have the GOAT anymore. Why not get Urban Meyer, the coach in his era, who was the biggest challenge? What if Urban Meyer comes back in this situation? Or in Michigan too? Would that be great? That'll never happen. But
Urban Meyer going to Michigan after coaching Ohio State feels Little sacrilege. I mean, I know he beat Ohio State at a national championship game and then went to go coach Ohio State, but that doesn't even feel like the same stratosphere.
What if Alabama called Urban? That doesn't seem like would happen, right?
Okay,
but he's in that whole sort of circle of Belichick, Urban, and Nick.
Okay, so I do have a thought about that. And the one reason why you might be correct.
Really?
Yes. Are you surprised?
Yeah, well, I feel good now. What?
I'll explain why that makes even some sort of hazy shred of sense. Maybe. Next, Maggie and Perloff reacting to the retirement of Nick Saban. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. I know we're on in Alabama. Tide fans, even Auburn fans, how you feeling with Nick Saban retiring?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
She once fell off a ski lift. He was called in for questioning. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
And now, Nick Saban, he'll win his second national championship. Remember, he led LSU to a title in New Orleans over Oklahoma. And now here tonight on the strength of a very well-coached, well-recruited defense. The Crimson Tide will be rolling back to Tuscaloosa with their first national championship since '92.
Little did we know what was to come. Hey, Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio. 5 more national titles as Nick Saban announces his retirement yesterday. Perloff, the only coach to win championships in 3 different decades. The only head coach to win national titles at 2 different schools since the AP Top 25 started in 1936. I mean, he's got all the accolades. He's the greatest.
Wait, what was that last one? 3?
The only coach to win 3 championships in 3 different decades.
Right. So this, I was like, wait, what? And then I realized, 2020.
Yeah,
That's it. We're in a new decade.
Of course we are.
2007 feels like it was yesterday. How could that be 3 decades ago?
You know what? This is the power of Saban. And this is why days like this are always a little like, they're tough because even when a guy's 72, and of course he's going to be retiring soon, it's hard to picture the sport without him. You know, Tom Brady's the same way. Coach K was the same way. Roy Williams. We'll see what happens with Belichick. Pete Carroll yesterday, forced out of Seattle. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it always makes you check in with yourself. It's like, wait a minute, didn't Nick Saban, wasn't he at the Dolphins like five minutes ago? Turns out, no, it was 17 seasons at Alabama and a dynasty and changed the sport, really. We can get on into all the accolades for Nick Saban, greatest college football coach of all time. But you and I started talking a little bit about who steps in now.
Yeah.
Because college football never rests. It is a 365-day-a-year sport. And now Alabama has this really big task in front of them to try to replace a legend.
Yeah, and listen, they are not Alabama 5 years ago where they were number one in everything. It was going to be a hard job for Saban next year, too. I think that this team, we were surprised they made the Final Four. I don't think, when they lost to Texas, it seemed like it was not going to happen. And then they easily could have been displaced by Florida State this year. So I think that's a tough job. You said something that I'm not sure I totally agree with.
What's that?
If you refuse to follow the GOAT and you don't want to take that on, is that a sign of weakness? Say, like, listen, I don't want to follow Nick Saban. Yeah. Like, what the heck am I going to do there that's going to impress Alabama fans? I understand that logic as a coach.
Okay, so not all situations are created equal here. So if we're looking at the odds to replace Nick Saban, this comes from betonline.ag. Dan Lanning is number 1, 3-1 odds. It was an assistant, not one of the top 10 assistants. He was like a grad assistant, whatever they call like the next tier of guys. But he did spend time at Alabama. So he's 3-1. Dabo Swinney, who obviously won a championship at Alabama, he's 4-1. Lane Kiffin, 5-1. Then Deion Sanders and Kalen DeBoer, 6-1. Pat Shurmur is 9-1.
Pat Shurmur?
Yeah. And then we'll get to Urban Meyer at 10-1. And we'll talk about Urban in a second. But I think that if you're Dan Lanning, you have a great thing happening at Oregon. I would not accuse Dan Lanning staying at Oregon of that being, fear of taking over Nick Saban's program. I'm not talking about Kalen DeBoer, who just was playing in the national title game. I don't think him staying at Washington is a fear of being in Nick Saban's shadow. I'm talking about other guys who would simply pass on the opportunity because they don't want to be the guy to follow the guy. And I think that's loser mentality. I don't think coaches have that mentality. I think it'd be hard to be a coach and have that mentality because you have no idea, A, when opportunity knocks, B, you have to have some belief in yourself that, sure, are you going to be the next Nick Saban? No, but that you can do a good job. You're not being set up to fail. And I think I just have a tiny bit of experience of this. I was somebody who in the broadcast world did step in for someone who had been in their seat for 30 years. And I'm happy that I had that experience. I wouldn't have traded that for anything. So I know a little, at least in our lane, what that's like.
Yeah, but it does feel like this is not going to go well. Do you understand? I feel like whoever takes over at Alabama is going to have a hard time because, as you noted in the first hour, it's a different college football landscape. NIL has flattened the curve. Georgia has risen to this powerhouse. You got LSU looming around with a lot of money as well.
Yeah, this was a big day for LSU yesterday.
It's going to be a tough job for Alabama. I think it's going to be hard to win regularly. Jalen Milroe is one of the Heisman favorites coming back. And you have this ridiculous offensive line who's young and is going to be really good. But I still think, like, you look at it, it's not 2018. You don't feel like, Alabama's going to be there every year. It already feels like it's slipping.
Okay, so part of this, though, is going to be on the fans. And I know that's really hard because you are used to a certain standard and you become accustomed to a certain lifestyle. It's like talking about two people getting divorced. You become accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And I know that, losing 1 or 2 games a year has become the norm. But I think if the fans really did give the next coach a chance, then there's a possibility that you can do like an Aaron Rodgers to a Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers situation. Like there is a possibility that you can have 2 great coaches back to back. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fans. Like you're going to have to be just the tiniest little shred of patience. And I would hope that Alabama fans would understand that. But, listen, I can't tell fans how to behave. I would never tell a fan how to behave. And you're either going to be hard on the next guy or you're going to give him a chance.
Yeah, the funny thing too about Alabama, and Nick Saban said this, they're not Mr. Moneybags down there. It doesn't feel like they have more resources. If you're looking, look at Texas A&M and the Houston oil money, and look at Oregon with Phil Knight, and look at Miami, what they're doing with all these boosters. The thing about Alabama, can they pay more than anybody else for all these players and all these coaches? So I think
how's it worked out for A&M and Miami though?
It hasn't worked yet, but that's a question. Where is college football going? Where it's going to be a pay-for-play model? That's why I wonder. And people are speculating that Saban is like, I don't want to deal with this NIL stuff. Maybe in an NIL world, Alabama is not Alabama. I think you might, and I don't know that they can necessarily. Can they afford to buy out Dan Lanning for $20 million plus a lot more? There's a rumor out there that it's even more than that, and then pay Dan Lanning so much more than Oregon. I'm not sure that's a no-brainer.
Listen, I never underestimate the power of a powerful college football fan base to find the money. It feels like they always find the money, and I don't think Alabama's going to be any different. Now, you had asked me right before we went to break about Urban Meyer. So right now, he is a 10-1. The next odds-on favorite to be the head coach of Alabama. On the surface, this sounds pretty insane.
Why is that?
Well, because Urban Meyer's kind of flamed out, stock's low, and I don't know.
Really? I feel like he's on anybody who. Any former coaches on TV, their stock just rises the more they talk on TV. That's how bad it was in
Jacksonville.
That's but Saban was terrible in Miami. I don't think college football.
Not to the degree of scandal that Urban Meyer had. But
scandal in college football, bring it on. They don't care about any of that.
I know, and Urban Meyer is synonymous. But here's the thing. This is why I think you might be you're on to something here, and I don't know if this is going to be true or whatever. But they said yesterday after Nick Saban retired, the athletic director for Alabama said they are going to have their coach in 72 hours. He also said, do not trust anybody and any information that's not coming from me, which I get. But if you are going to have your coach in 72 hours, maybe somebody who's just available, like Urban Meyer, where you don't have to deal with a buyout. You don't have to deal with the private plane, tracking planes, Lincoln Riley's plane going from Oklahoma to USC, whatever. Like, maybe this is just the easiest way as somebody who is on the open market.
Yeah,
and clearly Urban's the best coach on the open market.
Urban it's funny, if you're talking about who follows in the legacy of Nick Saban, it's clearly Urban. They both come from, had success in some weird Midwestern school and then went to different places. Like, he's friends with Bill Belichick. They're quite similar. I understand. They're both talk in a real kind of monotone, serious way.
Yeah.
They don't look like any fun.
No.
And also Urban, ironically, I think is more of an X's and O's guy than Nick Saban. But Urban had that great offense, which nowadays everybody has, but he had the spread offense. I think Alabama fans would be psyched if Urban Meyer came out of retirement. But he said I was looking it up. He said multiple times during the season, I don't want to coach again. I'm done.
Then he's definitely coaching again.
But also the pressure was too much at Ohio State. Alabama, that's a lot of pressure. So I wonder if Urban Meyer knows himself well enough to say, I can't handle this.
Well, there's another part of it, too, which is Urban Meyer has had scandals at Florida, at Ohio State. I mean, that the one thing about Saban, whether there are skeletons buried or whatever, it never really got out. I mean, Urban's had
No, you're right.
Urban's had to take in some real slings and arrows because of, players and what they've done at Florida, which a documentary came out and basically paper mached over that entire story. It was like nothing ever happened, but he had to answer hard questions about that. And then what happened with Ohio State with one of his assistant coaches. And so,
Well, I think that's attractive to some fans because it says that Urban is not going to play by the rules. Like, he's going to be like Harbaugh. I think a lot of fans are like, okay, well, Urban, we know will bend the rules, and you really got to be aggressive in today's game. I don't think that's a downside necessarily. The guy has 3 championships.
No, I get it.
There aren't a lot of 3 championship coaches out there to hire.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Would love to hear from the Tide fans. Who do you want? Like, we had a call earlier from Alabama. Who gets you excited? Lane Kiffin was fired by Alabama. That is the one thing that makes me have a little pause, is the same person who fired you, the athletic director, the same person who's going to hire you for what would ultimately be a career-defining move for that athletic director.
Yeah, Lane does not feel like Nick Saban's predecessor. Also,
to be honest, I think he's the best choice, to be honest, because he's so different from Saban. He would never try to do a Saban impersonation. I think we're going to see the same thing with Bill Belichick.
Would you rather have Lane Kiffin than Sark, talking about former offense coordinator?
I don't think Sark's available. But if you're asking me, I would say Sark, but I don't think Sark's available.
Because I think they're very similar, these great offensive minds. Listen,
not available. Let me put it this way. I wouldn't leave if I were Sark.
Yeah, I feel like Lane Kiffin has a degree of not seriousness that'd be hard to follow Saban. Because of everything. We all know
I
the
like
stories.
that, though. I like that. He's tweeting silly things. Like, Lane knows what he's doing. He's been through so many ups and downs.
But there's such a blow-up capability with Lane. It could go so bad.
Yeah, but he also
USC.
He also has a really thick skin. The USC, Tennessee, the Raiders. I don't know. It's gone sideways for Lane Kiffin a lot of times.
Yeah, that's why it just feels like an odd choice to me if they went with Lane.
But I don't think certain things that might bother the next person in line to Nick Saban, I don't think would bother Lane Kiffin. I don't. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. As if we couldn't have more breaking news. We've got more for you. More from the coaching world. Do I do it now or do I take a break?
Oh, do it right now.
Right now. Let's go. Adam Schefter. Is he the only one who's reporting it? Or someone else too?
Rappaport.
Mike Reese and Adam Schefter from ESPN.
There we go. Here's the story. Bill Belichick leaving the Patriots after 24 seasons, according to sources. This from Schefter and Mike Reese. Reese covers the Patriots. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots are expected to part ways Thursday after a remarkable 24 seasons together, ending an unmatched run in NFL history that included 6 Super Bowl titles, league sources told ESPN. Belichick and Patriots owner Robert Kraft spent a good part of the week periodically meeting and discussing how each side wanted to proceed. From sources familiar with those conversations, I'm reading from ESPN here, there was said to be no conflict, no disagreement, and in the end, productive talks resulted in a mutual decision that left both sides comfortable and at ease. Belichick and Kraft, as one outside party noted, quote, took the high road. Wow. I'm shocked actually that this is coming right off the heels of Saban because they're so close.
Yeah, it's actually not surprising because they're twins. They're the same person.
Yeah.
One's the NFL version, one's the college football version. I think Saban's maybe a little lighter than Belichick, but when you think about it, I mentioned before, we're going to have Monty Burke, who wrote the Saban biography. There's 3 chapters about Saban and Belichick's friendship and how they're uniquely look at the game differently than everybody else, and the intensity and the sort of commitment to detail. And it is not surprising at all to me. You can't be surprised. You also called that Belichick was going to leave.
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone kind of had that one. My Saban prediction was a little bit more from the logo. But
I think that Belichick, it's interesting, this timing with the owner. Is he going to be traded? That's what it's not clear. He sat with the owner. Could you get a second-round pick out of this with Bill Belichick? Is that why it's taken a few days to work this out?
Belichick has 1 year remaining on his contract. He will be allowed to leave the team without the Patriots seeking compensation. That's the final paragraph.
Well, there you go. That answers that question.
Of this
Schefter said that?
That's the Schefter and Mike Reese report. Belichick is free to leave. I think that's what they're talking about, taking the high road, right? And both sides coming to an agreement here, right? That this is big. I mean, even though we knew the writing might have been on the wall for some time, to get the finality of Belichick leaving after 24 seasons, which is the breaking news that's happening right now, is not nothing. I mean, we're talking about all these changes that we've seen in sports. It started with college basketball with Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski and Jim Boeheim, and now it's bleeding into Tom Brady and some players that we've seen hang it up, and now coming for college football and professional football.
Unbelievable. And you can't help but connect a dot that Mike Vrabel gets fired the other day, and now Belichick's not there. That seems like the obvious one.
Well, I think this was happening anyway.
Yeah,
I do think Gerard Mayo is still I would imagine he still has to be the front runner.
I would think Vrabel.
He's in the building.
I hear you, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because I have a lot of Patriots friends. They're all about Vrabel.
Right,
they think they have Vrabel already.
Well, they've seen it. You know, that's the one thing that Vrabel has over Gerard Mayo. He's been a head coach, and he's had success.
That's another question. Do you want to follow the shadow of Bill Belichick in New England?
I think it's a tougher shadow. Oh, boy.
I don't know, because Brady left and the Patriots aren't the Patriots anymore. It's not that hard to follow up a 4-win team. It's a little easier. Alabama just made the Final Four.
Overtime, one play away
If you're gonna rank shadows that are easier to step into, maybe the Patriots right now.
Yeah, but I think as we've learned, the grace period you get in the NFL is not much. You know, like NFL, you're hired to be fired. College, maybe the same. But.
I mean, listen, Jimmy Johnson came in for Tom Landry and went 1-15, and then he went on to win 2 Super Bowls. So I think it's easier to follow a shadow in NFL because you can rebuild so fast in NFL.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go but down for Alabama.
That's true. But you're still going to always be compared to Belichick. And here's the other thing about Belichick. So we have Belichick and Belichick is out with the parting ways with the New England Patriots. That's the news this morning if you're just tuning in. And obviously Saban retired yesterday. I just think at least we've seen Saban assistants in the Saban coaching tree go on to have success other places. Like I'm watching Sark coach Texas, is part of that tree. There's, he's also part of maybe a Pete Carroll tree. But like you have guys who actually have had success. Look at Kirby Smart. Belichick's assistants don't do anything compared to what Belichick was. If you want to say Bill O'Brien made the playoffs, all right, good for him.
Bill O'Brien's the perfect case because he was under both guys.
Yeah, right. That's true.
And by the way, there's talk Bill O'Brien could be a candidate at Alabama. Knows it really well.
So, but it's like, I guess what I'm saying is, if you're going to go with a Belichick disciple to take over for him, why wouldn't they suffer the same fate as all the other Belichick disciples?
Well, because Vrabel had success, made the AFC title game.
And Vrabel didn't coach with Belichick. I'm saying if you went with Mayo or if you went with Josh McDaniels or Bill O'Brien.
But Vrabel still feels like a Belichick disciple because it says he was there. The ultimate Belichick coaching job was 2001, and Vrabel was a big part of that. He's got Patriots DNA. You know it. So, yes, technically he's not part of the coaching tree, but he is.
No, I get it. It's like, it's just that it's just failed so often. It has with the Belichick acolytes. Like, it is just failed. It has not nearly produced. And that's been the one weird thing about the Belichick tree. And I've heard other guys talk about this, like Michael Lombardi, who worked for Belichick in 2 different places. And he said Belichick doesn't let everyone in on what the magic is, like what the secret sauce is. He keeps guys really siphoned off, do your job, You be responsible for this. You be responsible for that. And I think it's to a detriment. And also, I think guys try to go in and be Belichick, and you can't do that.
Yeah, and also there's a real challenge here with New England. Like Gerard Mayo could take over. The defense is going to be awesome, but you have to redefine that offense. You watched them this year. That was awful.
How's Vrabel going to do that?
Yeah, I know Vrabel's got the same. Mayo and Vrabel both have the same challenge. How are you going to modernize that offense that Belichick kind of sucked the life out of?
One thing is, and I think this is important too, because we'll talk about this with Chicago, who made an interesting decision yesterday that they're going to keep Matt Eberflus, the head coach, but they're moved on from all of the offensive side of the ball. Everyone's gone. Offensive coordinator, every position coach, they're all gone. And it's like, if you're you better give Matt Eberflus a contract extension, because what offensive coordinator who's worth their salt is going to walk in to a lame duck situation with a head coach where you guys could all be fired in a year? So like that'd be one thing for Vrabel or for whoever follows up with Saban. That head coach has got to be pretty in good standing to be able to get the assistants to come and support you and think that they have, a solid footing.
So let me get this straight. You're saying the Chicago Bears could take Caleb Williams #1 overall and it wouldn't work out? But yeah, I think you bring up a great point. Like this Eberflus situation is a mess.
Yeah.
What the heck are the Chicago Bears doing?
Well, they didn't go far enough. They tried to do this half measure, and that never worked.
And they know that they've never had a good quarterback, and it feels like they're already going out of their way to screw the next quarterback.
Well, and that's where you come to Saban and Belichick. Like whoever takes those jobs to get the good assistants to come and not say, oh, you're just the guy after the guy. This is going to last 2 years, and then you're going to be out. You got to make a serious commitment to that person. I think you got to show your weight is really behind them. If you're Robert Kraft or if you're the boosters at Alabama.
Yeah, because Alabama talking about recruiting, they're already losing recruits. So you need to have a solid base of coach and assistants there. I think it's tougher in Alabama because recruiting's going on right now.
Just crazy.
Got any other goats who are going to step down?
Do we have any who are playing? LeBron
Phil Jackson's,
retire?
Yeah, LeBron. Yeah. Well, you could argue player coach LeBron James could retire. Yeah. The next great coach to step down.
I guess he's the next man up, right? And we don't know what Pete Carroll's going to do. Pete Carroll might not retire. Belichick's not going to retire. They're both probably going to be coaching somewhere else next year, just not Saban.
Wait, there's got to be another old coach who's on his way out. How old is? Not really.
I think this is the last. This has been a big wave here.
Yeah, Bill Self's not that old.
No.
And he's not even that great. But I know
he's multi-champion.
This is
Jim Larinaga. I don't think rises to the.
This
level.
is pretty much it. Maybe Hubie Brown will step down as a broadcaster at 87.
Never.
He will be 120 like Moses, still calling games. 855-212-4CBS. 855.
Andy Reid.
Yeah, but Andy Reid's not old.
Yeah, you're right.
Is he 61 or something?
64, I think.
That's baby. In coaching circles.
He's just getting started.
Well, okay, I got one. Mac Brown.
Yeah, has a title, but I don't know if
not
he's
in this conversation.
The GOAT conversation.
Well, actually, he has a lot of wins.
Yeah, no, I love Mac Brown, but
yeah,
I don't think it's the same impact.
Okay, so here's the news if you're just getting caught up. All in the last 24 hours. Pete Carroll has been forced out of Seattle. Nick Saban retired. And now the latest from this morning, Bill Belichick and the Patriots are parting ways. And as part of this, agreement that Belichick has with Robert Kraft, even though he has a year left on his contract, he is going to be free to go wherever he wants to go. They're not going to be trading for him. They're not seeking any kind of compensation. This is it. Clean and out. 855-212-4CBS. You're welcome to weigh in on all of this coaching news. Belichick, Saban, who should be replacing these two gentlemen? We'll get more into that next. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
I'm in a contract, do what I always do, which is every day I come in, work as hard as I can to help the team in whatever way I can. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. If you haven't heard, Nick Saban retired. Now Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots are parting ways. I got a poll question for you, Maggie.
Okay.
Whose status as GOAT, greatest of all time, is more secure? Nick Saban in college football or Bill Belichick in the NFL?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I think the answer is both, but if you're going to make me pick one.
Hence a poll. You can't click both.
I know. Honestly, I think it's probably Belichick. But you know what? I just made this case for Nick Saban being the GOAT, and he's going to carry that title forever because there's so many changes coming to college football. Yep. I think it's going to be so much harder for dynasties to exist. Mm-hmm. Like you go to a 12-team playoff, and you think they're stopping at 12? You go to a 12-team playoff, that could continue to grow. I think it's just going to be too many obstacles, like to put together the type of dominance that Alabama did, not to mention NIL and the transfer portal, spreading out more of the talent. Like Nick Saban, in the early days of Alabama, like used to be able to stash 5 stars. Like guys would wait because they knew Alabama would be one of not your best shot to the NFL, but be a good shot to the NFL. So you'd sit for 2 years behind somebody. Like that doesn't happen now because there's too much money at stake.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's easy. I think it's Nick Saban's GOAT status is much easier than Belichick's because Belichick's GOAT status has taken a major hit since Tom Brady left and he started losing. And then here's the thing. If Bill Belichick wants to coach next year, the typical path is great coach leaves great team, then goes and flames out in his last job. If he goes to the Chargers and they have 700 injuries like they always do and end up being 6-11, I'm telling you, his status as GOAT in NFL is going to get slowly nicked away at.
But I think that's prisoner of the moment because we all saw the 6 Super Bowls. And I know that Brady proved a lot by winning one in Tampa, but that doesn't erase what Belichick did. That's insane to me.
But it's a GOAT is a perception thing, and that perception is out there that it was all Brady. Julian Edelman said the other day that we worked for Belichick, but we played for Brady.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
that was actually Danny.
Danny Amendola.
Yeah. Same Netflix thing.
It was actually Socrates. It was Aristotle and Socrates together.
The other thing, too, is Bill Belichick's GOAT status. He's going to have the most Super Bowls. But there are a lot of people who think that Bill Walsh was a better football coach and Paul Brown invented every single thing in the sport. And then you have the shadow of Vince Lombardi from a different era. We don't really know. Nobody was alive for Vince Lombardi, but we know there's a play about the dude and he wore an overcoat and he's Vince Lombardi. And there's a rest stop named after him. Belichick has more competition, ironically, than Saban, in my opinion. Saban's got Bear Bryant, and who else is even in the conversation?
Okay, the thing is about Belichick, I can't, it bothers me a little bit that this has taken such a hit that Belichick's that his reputation, I guess, or his status as a legendary coach has taken a hit just because they did what a lot of teams do, which is pick wrong on a quarterback, and that's what ends up falling off. Meanwhile, this is the thing. What do we say? Wins aren't a quarterback stat, yet we define Brady greatest of all time by the Super Bowl wins, don't we? Because Brady's not the most talented quarterback.
No,
and even
no doubt.
He would tell you that, right?
Not even nearly the most talented
Exactly. There are
quarterback.
guys who are faster, better arm, better athlete, all that stuff. Yet, we crown Brady the GOAT because of his 7 Super Bowls, because he won more than anybody.
Yep.
Yet, when it comes to Belichick, and you're talking about wins and losses, which is actually what coaches should be defined by, all of a sudden, the Super Bowls don't mean as much for Belichick. All of a sudden, they only meant something for Brady, even though we all know Brady wasn't the best player to ever play quarterback. The winning did it for Brady. It doesn't do it for Belichick. Somebody explain to me the hypocrisy of that.
Well, because sometimes the coach makes the great players, and sometimes the great players makes the coach. That's the thing out there.
You don't think the two of them together were why this whole thing happened? Was Brady out there, tackling, the running backs? He didn't play. I understand he is incredible, and he is responsible for a lot of it. But you can't say that Bill Belichick was a mere bystander. What was the headset even plugged in? I mean, the way that we're talking about Belichick now, where some people are implying that he was a bystander on the Tom Brady Express, is such crap. It's so disrespectful to Belichick.
I mean, you're right. The dude could definitely get up to 9 wins without Tom Brady. He's certainly a good coach without Tom Brady, but GOAT?
Dude, I mean, I watched
I'm just kind of messing with you.
Come on.
Yeah, I think they two work together, just like Bill Walsh and Joe Montana work together. But I definitely think among NFL historians, everyone thinks, oh, well, Walsh created Montana. where now people are not sure. Did Belichick create Brady or did Brady create Belichick? I think it's a much closer debate in New England. I just think that's the way history's going to look at it. They're going to credit Tom Brady a lot more. There's a balance between player and coach, and the balance is closer to the player in this situation. And I think it's going to get worse because I think Belichick's going to go somewhere else. And it might stink.
But you're saying there's no balance. Like, it's all or nothing. Either Belichick created Brady or Brady created Belichick. Like, these things can exist where Belichick could have created a place where Brady could thrive. Brady has said this himself. If he got drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, we would never know who he is. That is the endorsement for Belichick. He is the program. And Brady was the perfect player for the program because Belichick would crap on him and tell him that the guy at Foxborough High School can throw the ball better than you and never gave him game balls. And Brady took it and took it and took it. And because he took it, everyone else had to take it. I get it, but like Brady deserves a lot of credit for humbling himself in a lot of ways to Belichick, but Belichick built the program and Brady was just the perfect fit for the program.
All right, let me ask this. Mo Lewis doesn't knock out Drew Bledsoe, and Drew Bledsoe is a quarterback. Does Bill Belichick have 7 rings?
Well, I don't know, but I probably not, but that doesn't take away from the fact that when they realized what they had with Brady, Belichick didn't bleep it up. He didn't say, listen, Bledsoe was a number 1 overall pick. We paid him all this money, which he was like ticked off about, by the way. Like, that was one of the big rifts between Belichick, like, early on, is that they paid Drew Bledsoe apparently behind his back. But he never messed it up. He realized what he had in the 199th overall pick, like, and he let him do his thing.
Yeah, I just think that Belichick it's also a matter of competition. There's so many iconic NFL coaches. There's just nobody besides Saban. Saban and Bear Bryant, who's third off the top? If you ask the average fan in college football, there's nobody else. I mean, nobody's going to say Joe Pa or Bobby Bowden.
Bobby Bowden, I was going to say Tom Osborne. I mean, there are these other iconic coaches.
But they weren't able to accumulate the titles that Saban did. Belichick, I think the next job for Belichick is going to have a big say in his legacy because if he goes to another team and stinks, it'll be bad. If
but
he goes to another,
Vince Lombardi.
If he goes, Lombardi had 1 year.
Okay, but maybe Belichick's 1 year. Like that we have no idea
if it's
what's
1 year.
But
if he goes and has a 3-year run of mediocrity in Washington, it's going to look bad. If he has a 3-year run of awesomeness in Washington, then it's going to be great for him. I think there's a lot more to be written here. Assuming, by the way, are we positive Belichick doesn't walk away? I assume he's not.
So this is some new reporting coming in. And by the way, if you're just joining us, this is the big news. Bill Belichick and the Patriots are parting ways. Now, according to Jeff Howe, who covers the Patriots in Boston, Bill Belichick does want to continue coaching. And according to Adam Schefter and Mike Reese of ESPN, the Atlanta Falcons look like a place. Were you just about to say that, Bogish?
Well, I was going to say that people have connected the dots that they have not put in a single request to interview anybody since firing Arthur Smith Sunday night. The Panthers, the Titans have 8, 9, 10 names. The Falcons have asked for 0 permission to speak with the current coach.
Can I just tell you, literally 2 minutes ago, they asked for Aaron Glenn.
Are you serious?
I kid you not. I could not make that up. The Lions defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, has been requested by the Falcons.
Okay, so there's one.
To cover up.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, also, this coming out that, and I don't know if you were just about to say, I'm stepping all over Bogish's
no, you're
update
not.
Here. Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft will hold a press conference at noon Eastern today. So, set your watches. Okay, Bogish. Everything else, what else? What did we miss?
These things seem to come in threes, right? Pete Carroll done in Seattle, Nick Saban retiring from Alabama, and now Bill Belichick and the Patriots parting ways after 24 seasons. As you've been hearing, ESPN says Belichick is free to leave without compensation. He wants to keep coaching, and teams will probably maybe want to hire him. Saban, meanwhile, had the retirement spotlight to himself for less than 24 hours. The former Toledo and Dolphins head coach also spent 17 years in Tuscaloosa, leading Alabama to 6 national titles. He won 7 of them total, and his teams finished in the top 5 on 6 other occasions. And Carroll won the Seahawks' lone Super Bowl over his 14 seasons in Seattle. He wanted to return, but the team called a change, quote, in the best interest of the franchise. And then we have Wink Martindale officially done as Giants defensive coordinator. He is free to go anywhere. The team, in turn, is keeping the $3 million left on his contract. We already touched on this morning. The Warriors in trouble.
Dyson, no look over to JV! And the right-hand punch on the bounce pass! 12 straight for Valanciunas. who's got a game-high 21 now. Taking over 100-78.
Todd Graffinini on Pels Radio. New Orleans storming to a 141-105 win in San Francisco. Jonas Valanciunas with 21. Zion had 19 plus 5 rebounds and 7 assists. Steve Kerr not holding back postgame.
We've just lost the spirit and the confidence that has to carry you, against talented teams night in and night out.
His team booed at home for the second straight time. It is now 3 games under 500.
Oh, wait, sorry, we were talking before, pardon me, Bogusch, we were talking about all of the older coaches who are exiting their sports. And Perloff, we thought Mac Brown is still an older guy who's out there. We forgot Greg Popovich. That's going to be next.
Pop doesn't seem to have any interest in walking away.
No, he just got Wemby.
Now
this is the start of something.
He's acting like a young man. It doesn't feel like you saw Saban coming. A lot of people saw Belichick coming. Pop's not going to walk away. He's got Wemby. I feel like
he's
Pop's
got a new 5-year contract.
Yeah, he's fine.
But he would probably be the next older person. I do think Steve Kerr's walking away, not because he's older.
Yeah. How old is Kerr? Probably 60? I'm not even sure.
60?
No, maybe even not that.
Let's see.
Maybe Kerr go coach the Patriots.
I love
career
this.
Change now.
Let's go cross. He's 58. Let's go cross sports. I mean, listen.
Bob
the
Myers.
Commanders hired Bob Myers to find their next coach.
That's right.
It'd be funny if he's like, I recommend Steve Kerr.
The Sixers have begun their Eagles-like collapse. 3 straight losses after falling in OT in Atlanta last night, 139-132. And Joel Embiid was out with left knee swelling. The Nuggets lost in Utah, 124-111. The T-Wolves fell in OT in Boston, 127-120. And the Spurs topped the Pistons, 130-108. Victor Wembanyama, 16 points, 12 boards, 10 assists in just 21 minutes. And 3 more top 10 upsets in men's college hoops last night. That's 5 in 2 days. Third-ranked Kansas, a 65-60 loser at UCF. Mississippi State took down number 5 Tennessee, 77-72. And number 9 Oklahoma stumbled at TCU, 80-71. Guys, back to you.
Andrew Bogusch, thank you so much. Coming up, we've got more on Bill Belichick and the Patriots parting ways. We've got more on Nick Saban and Alabama's search for a successor. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
If he makes it, and it's right down the pipe. Adam Vinatieri. No time on the clock, and the Patriots have won Super Bowl 36. Unbelievable.
This portion of the show is sponsored by the new Hyundai Tucson. The Hyundai Tucson, available with complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Now it's easy to use your phone to control your Tucson. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, Bill Belichick, and the Patriots mutually parting ways. Perloff, he's out after 24 years. A lot of news here. There's going to be a press conference at noon Eastern with Belichick and Kraft. But beyond that, Belichick is free to go. This is, they're not trying to trade him. They're not trying to get compensation. And it looks like the Atlanta Falcons are the early team that's been linked to him. And then on the Patriots side, Gerard Mayo, the former linebacker and now linebackers coach, is said to be the front runner for the job.
You know, it's funny. Most coaches end in a bad way, like Belichick. It's been bad last couple of years.
4-13, something like
4-13. Tom Landry, famously bad. We talked about Vince Lombardi was sort of 500 in Washington. You go down the list of great all-time coaches, nobody goes out on top. That's why it's so interesting to me that Nick Saban made the Final Four and was one play away from getting the title game. He's basically going out on top. He did an amazing job this year.
Yep.
If I was Nick Saban, I might call my dear friend Bill Belichick. They go back forever. They coach together in Cleveland and say, you know what? You're pretty near the top. I'm not sure you need to go to the Atlanta Falcons and try and, I know you want the win record, but I feel like Bill Belichick can actually hurt his status a little bit, whereas Nick Saban has sealed his GOAT title right now by leaving with a Final Four appearance.
Yeah, I don't think coaches think that way. I think
well,
they
Saban
always look.
Might be.
Well, Saban is, but, you know, I think that there's, but nobody's trying to force out Saban.
But
you know,
Saban's 72 and he realizes, hey, I want to have another life here.
Okay, but look at Pete Carroll. Like Pete Carroll yesterday, they're basically forcing him out. He's saying, I'm not tired. I feel great at 72. I want to continue to coach. I think the Patriots, this is why it's funny that they say they're mutually parting ways. Like, that's not what Belichick said 3 days ago. 4 days ago, he's like, I want to keep coaching this team, and I'm all dedicated to coaching this team. So,
but do you think he's going to have? If you had to guess, do you realistically think he's going to be able to reproduce what he did in New England and Atlanta? It feels like such a hard assignment to me. I almost would say maybe you should just walk away and do TV like Saban's going to do, because this might not end well.
Okay, but all you're doing is, because you have put yourself in a rarefied air, you're only really competing with yourself. And so if that's me and I'm the coach, I'm like, listen, I still believe in my ability. I might not win 6 Super Bowls. It's going to be too late for that. But can I coach up a group of guys, and can I get the best out of them? And can I turn people's seasons and franchises around? Like, hell yeah, I can do that.
I'm thinking more players. Like, players always end on it. Emmitt Smith goes to Arizona. Joe Namath ends up as a Ram. O.J. Simpson is a San Francisco. All those funny pictures of great Hall of Fame players in another uniform. Sorry, I brought up OJ. That was weird. But you know what I mean? Like, usually you try and eke a few more years out of your career when you've lost your effectiveness. And I hate to say it, if I think of the Atlanta Falcons, mediocrity just jumps right to mind. And I can't see Belichick building a champion in Atlanta. It just feels, maybe cut that and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but it just feels like a place where coaches go to be average.
You might be right. We have no idea how it's going to go. But for every, here's the thing about the Emmitt Smith or guys who who hung on and wanted to get the record and all of that. I still look at Emmitt Smith, and when I have gotten chances to meet him or talk with him, I'm not thinking Arizona Cardinals couple years. I still think of his legendary career in the same way that I think about it with Barry Sanders, who walked away probably too early.
Yeah, I'm a champion of ignoring Jordan's Wizards years. Nobody talks about that.
Honestly,
no, you're right. You're absolutely right about
those into the sun. I think that people who are coaching or playing at a high level, they don't think like that. They don't go in with fear of failure.
Well, there is this thing with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, though, that Nick Saban doesn't have any of that. Nobody's saying, well, was it really A.J. McCarron or was it Nick Saban? There's none of that. There is this unique situation with the GOAT, Tom Brady, and Bill Belichick that is unusual. Like, Bill Walsh didn't have that situation even with Montana. Nobody thought Montana built Bill Walsh, because Bill Walsh's system then turned around and turned Steve Young into a Hall of Famer. I just think that the Belichick-Brady thing is a little weird. So if Belichick ends with 5 losing seasons, that would be bad for him. That's all I'm saying. I do think it would change his GOAT status.
No, this would be the next thing, is if Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes together win 7. Then it's going to be then we'll have this conversation again, but not until then.
But it's so funny. Andy Reid would never be in a GOAT conversation because he's one of the worst game managers in the history of the NFL. It just doesn't feel like Andy Reid can turn any quarterback into an all-pro, but there's no way he's going to pass Belichick.
In the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio, where DT says, Bill B on a podcast with Tom B. I would watch that. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, together on a pod.
There's no way Tom Brady's doing that. Tom Brady could get away from Bill Belichick fast enough. He says nice things now.
Well, think about this, actually. Brady calling games on Fox next year, Belichick in the NFC.
Oh, there you go. That'll be fun.
Now you could get Brady calling Belichick's games.
How about a podcast of Nick Saban and Bill Belichick?
Now there's something.
Oh, it would be...
Breaking down coaching?
It could be... it might be a sleep aid. Can you imagine a more boring conversation than Bill Belichick?
I think they jazz each other up. There was a 30 for 30 with the two of them together, and it was okay. It was okay.
I just think it's kind of funny that they're so low key the way they talk. They mumble. The two of them going out together is very poetic. Things like this rarely work out in sports because they are mirror images of each other. I'm not exactly sure what their special sauce is, but it's the same. They are basically a version of the same guy.
Which is funny because they are together. I'm seeing a little of the Bill Belichick, Dallas Cowboys stuff still out there. Now, we're saying Atlanta because that's what the Adam Schefter, Mike Reese article that just came out this morning, they're saying Atlanta could be linked to Belichick. Now, that Dallas Cowboys thing could still be out there. Depending on, how the Cowboys do, and if somehow in some way Dallas loses to the Green Bay Packers on Super Wild Card weekend, is Bill Belichick possibly headed to Dallas?
What? I don't get it. You're telling me a guy who's gone 12-5 3 years in a row, you're going to fire him and try Bill Belichick?
Well, that's just that it's more speaking to the status of Belichick and his place as
to
a
me,
legend.
That'd be crazy because are you sure Belichick is going to make that team better? Maybe Micah Parsons is his Lawrence Taylor. Yikes. I don't know. I see Dak Prescott played so well this year to move on from McCarthy. And believe me, sounds crazy. That would be nuts. You have so much momentum.
What is the poll question you wanted to put out there?
We put out who's got a more secure GOAT status. Ryan, what's the result so far?
So far, Bill Belichick has 37.7% of the votes. Nick Saban, 62.3%. So I think Nick Saban's more secure being the GOAT.
I mean,
Belichick's GOAT status, I know you will, Belichick lives rent-free in your head.
Yep.
Feel like it's a little wobbly right now.
That's crazy. 855-212-4CBS. Lots of news, lots of coaching news. Belichick and the Patriots parting ways. Nick Saban retires. Pete Carroll has been forced out. We tackle all of it. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Victory formation one last time. 18 seconds on the clock. Stork snaps it to Brady, who takes the knee. And the New England Patriots are on to a celebration thanks to a job well done. A fourth Lombardi trophy is headed to one Patriot place. The Patriots 28 and the Seahawks 24.
She can put away a large pizza by herself. He's allergic to cheese. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Yep, you heard that Patriots highlight. We are looking back now at the career of Bill Belichick and the Patriots because it's over. Belichick and the Patriots mutually parting ways. The press conference is at noon Eastern today. Perloff, end of an era.
Unbelievable. We were talking earlier about what made Nick Saban so special as the Alabama coach. You said his ability to evolve. For me, the thing about Belichick that made him special as an NFL coach was attention to detail, which sounds obvious. But the fact that the one memory I have is when he took advantage of this reporting rule against the Baltimore Ravens and kind of screwed over the Ravens. There was no stone that he was going to unturn. He used to tell his team what to say to the media. He used to, every single play, every game was a full-on, I'm going to know everything, often too much with Spygate, but he's like, I'm going to know everything about the opponent. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to out-strategize his team. There's never a coach to me who has really just been in such control of everything happening in his building. Sometimes maybe it went too far, but I just don't ever see there being another Bill Belichick.
A maniacal. And, he and Saban have that in common. And it's kind of crazy now that two guys who are so close to each other personally, professionally worked with each other at the Cleveland Browns. And now you see Saban retiring, Belichick leaving the Patriots, and this all happens within a span of 24 hours. It is wild, not to mention Pete Carroll also getting forced out of Seattle. Now he's going to get kicked up to a consulting role. We'll see if that sticks because Pete Carroll has shown that he had demonstrated that he still wants to coach. So we've got a lot going on. Welcome to the show, if I didn't say that already. And, I think what's interesting about both of these is now you are looking for, it's different with Belichick because he's going to go on to continue coaching, but you're still having the same situation in New England and with Alabama, which is trying to fill the shoes of somebody who has redefined the job, and created the standard by which now all other coaches are judged.
Yeah, it's a little different because Alabama's kind of loaded. They're one of the favorites for next year. New England is at a real down moment, and part of it is the roster. Say what you want. Bill Belichick, greatest coach, not the greatest GM in the last few years. It's not just the quarterback. He's had such a hard time drafting wide receivers. So whoever takes over for New England, that's going to be a bad team. I think if it's Gerard Mayo, the current assistant, who's done a great job with the defense, I worry about that. You might be a 5-win team for a couple of years. You're getting a young quarterback in. I don't know. It's one thing you're replacing Belichick. It's another to replace Belichick and almost be guaranteed to have a losing season.
Okay, but I think that the fans in New England are going to have a little bit more of an understanding that it might not happen overnight. You have the third overall pick, or I hope the fans would be. You have the third overall pick, so you're going to be starting with I'm assuming this is a rookie quarterback, unless they zag and take Marvin Harrison or something.
Well, it's not a no-brainer. It's
like a Kirk Cousins. I don't even know who they'd bring in, but here's the thing. You're going to have what it signals in New England is clearly you're at the start of a rebuild. And we're smart enough sports fans to know that those don't happen overnight. Alabama, on the other hand, is coming off of a trip to the college football playoff, overtime against Michigan, the eventual champs. I think that the Alabama fans, while maybe intuitively they realize, like, hey, this is going to be very different without Saban, I think they're still expecting SEC to be competing for SEC titles and to be in the college football playoff.
Well, which they will be. And they're going to hit that mark. See, I think you're giving way too much credit to Boston fans. They are not a rational group. I think you saw, first of all, I mean, it's a Red Sox town, and now the Red Sox are hitting hard times. They are furious about it. I don't think they'll accept a rebuild with the Patriots. Ironically,
you have no choice. You have to start with a rookie quarterback.
I think they're going to lose interest in that team really fast. I think this is a tough job. Honestly, I'd much rather have the Alabama job than the New England job.
Because the expectations are much higher. Wow.
I just think you have a much better chance for success at Alabama than you do at New England right now. I think whoever's taking over that roster is going to have a bad time and might not last more than a few years.
Okay, but what if you end up hitting on the quarterback? What if it is Jaden Daniels? And what if he goes on to be, a top 10 quarterback?
Who's he throwing to next year?
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. I'm okay. Listen, you and I are different. You think that wide receiver is the new running back. Yeah. You're going to be able to find them. Like, if my one Achilles heel is I haven't been able to find wide receivers, I'll take that in the NFL because the wide receivers coming out of college right now are so good. Mm-hmm. And I think you can find them first round, second round, third round. Like, give me that problem as an NFL team. I'll fix that problem.
I think Tom Brady in 2019 looked around that locker room and said, this roster is crap. I'm getting out of here. And they've not rebuilt it at all. Honestly, they're no name on both sides of the ball, really. I think the only guy who stands out is Matthew Judon because he wears red sleeves. There is very few players, to me, on the Patriots that anybody else wants. And I think it's going to be, listen, you're in a tough division. If Aaron Rodgers come back, the Jets are going to be good, the Dolphins are going to be good, the Bills are going to be good. I think it's a long road to climb. Like, think ahead to next summer. Are you going to pick the Patriots to make the playoffs? Of course not. They're going to have a young quarterback and a new coach. And you're going to follow Bill Belichick? Yeah, this is not a great spot. And by the way, you mentioned it earlier, the Belichick coaching tree has been terrible. So if they hire Jerod Mayo, you have that curse as well. There's just nothing good about this situation.
That's why I was not surprised, but, a little that it's just so cut and dry. Belichick's gone. Okay, we're going to get someone else from the Belichick tree. It's like, I don't know. First of all, is that smart business? Like, shouldn't you cast a little bit of a wider net? Now, this is a question for both guys, both Saban, who's retiring, and Belichick, who's parting ways with the Patriots, as we have just found out in the last, hour or so. Did each of these guys handpick the successor? So Belichick, it looks like Jerod Mayo's in line, but you do have Mike Vrabel out there now, who was fired by the Titans, so perhaps there's a bit of a competition. On the other hand, for Saban, the athletic director for Alabama has said that they are going to have a coach in 72 hours. And Saban also feels like the kind of guy who would want to handpick his successor, who would want to have a say. Belichick, I'm sure he had recommendations, but he wanted to keep coaching the Patriots. He didn't want to leave. He said that 4 days ago. He doesn't want to leave. This is kind of being put on him. I think for Saban, he must have handpicked the next guy, right?
I have no idea.
You think he just left Alabama after 17 years and was like, all right, guys, I'm done. You figure it out? No way.
But the problem is all his great friends and coordinators all have great head coaching jobs. So, I mean, he's not going to make Tommy Rees the head coach. Is he after 1 year? What kind of connection does he have with that dude?
No, and his defensive coordinator just retired, which maybe was also some writing on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, who are his coordinators? Bill O'Brien, Lane Kiffin, Brian Daboll, Steve Sarkisian. They kind of all have jobs.
You want to know what's funny? Brian Daboll's way far down on the list, which is interesting. So the New York Giants head coach who won national titles with Alabama. I mean, I don't know why you'd leave the New York Giants right now, but I'm telling you, that's the easiest 1-for-1 for Belichick and Saban. If Brian Daboll goes to Alabama, then Belichick's the next Giants head coach. He is held in such high regard and esteem in that building for what he and Parcells did winning the 2 titles with Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
I've always thought that Belichick in some way was going to end up back with the Giants. Like, he's talked about how his heart in many ways is with the Giants, but I don't think Daboll would leave.
Well, how would he get to the Don Shula win record? Because how on earth, talking about a bad roster, How on earth are you going to win with that Giants team?
I don't know. I said, no, that's a conversation for another day.
One thing about Bill Belichick wants to break Don Shula's record. Can we get the exact number of wins he needs?
I think it's 15.
Atlanta's a great spot because you have that terrible competition. You're going to get 2 over Carolina for the next 3 years. I don't think Atlanta's going to be a Super Bowl threat with Bill Belichick. They don't have a quarterback either. So, but the Giants would be terrible. I am worried about Bill Belichick's status. I really think that he could flame out in this next job, and people are going to be like, Brady. It's fair or not fair, and I know you think it's unfair.
I do.
That's just the narrative that it's going to be.
So here's
he needs 26 to tie, 27 to take it.
Oh, sorry, more than I thought. So here's the funny thing about this. The symmetry. You've always talked about this between Favre and Rodgers. The symmetry of going to the Jets and
throwing my guy Jordan Love. Got it.
Right. Now it'd be interesting, the symmetry between Brady and Belichick. If Belichick does go to the Atlanta Falcons, again, this is just some early reporting. Schefter's not reporting this. It's like early whispers. But leave New England to go to the NFC South and just to try to take advantage, I guess, of one of the weaker divisions and see if you can find a sleeping giant.
Yeah, because Todd Bowles is going to be back at Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay probably a little more veteran roster would be a better fit. I wonder if also Atlanta's an early report. Will the Chargers seize out there and make a move?
Well, I wonder
because that makes a lot of sense. So that'd be a good spot for Bill.
I wonder the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh, is that a done deal? Would Pete Carroll maybe be a candidate now for the Chargers? I saw Marcus Spears saying that on ESPN. Full credit to him. I mean, Pete Carroll gives you an identity that the Chargers really haven't had. They're always kind of playing for second fiddle in LA to the Rams or whatever, Lakers. I mean, Pete Carroll has such an established, fan base and winning because of USC. That could be a fun sort of second act for Carroll.
I mean, I think you make a great argument that who makes great coaches? Look, assistants who are ascending. I'm of the ascending assistant school. Which is,
but that goes south a lot too.
It goes
Look
south
at Brandon
a lot.
Staley, he was an ascending assistant. That was a train wreck.
Yes, but obviously Brandon Staley because he knew Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and I think you look at this year's season. I think Shane Steichen and DeMeco Ryans were the noteworthy hires, especially DeMeco Ryans. He's obviously a star.
So he is also on this list. The
odds,
went
to Bama,
yeah, the odds of DeMeco Ryans going to Bama's 22
I can answer
to 1.
that one. Do not put any money on that because he is not leaving C.J. Stroud.
No,
that would be foolish.
He is nestled right between Ryan Day at 20 to 1 and Marcus Freeman also 22 to 1. James Franklin 25 to 1.
Okay, so Ryan Day leaves, and then Vrabel just goes to Ohio State. That's an easy one. He's a very active alum. He loves him some Ohio State.
He was an assistant there.
I think Vrabel to the Patriots.
Okay.
Unless if they do go Mayo, how finite is the report? You were reading that.
It was just he's believed to be the front runner.
Okay, Vrabel to the Patriots. I think that the Chargers are going to put in the money for this Ben Johnson kid out of the Lions. Okay. I think people, and then Mike McDonald, the Ravens coordinator, is the beton.ag favorite for every position.
Okay.
He gets a head job. I don't think Pete Carroll gets one, and I think Belichick is stuck with an NFC South job.
What about Harbaugh?
Okay.
Raiders? Back to Michigan?
Is there money? Can you bet money? I want to go back to Michigan.
I don't think that's happening. Look at what's going on right now, Perloff. No one's going back. Belichick's gone. Saban is retiring. Yeah. Pete Carroll's going to be gone. No one's going back.
But I think Jim Harbaugh loves to go against the grain and will defy everyone just to make a point. He will do this just so everyone. He does not want people to be right about him. Yeah, I mean, I guess the Chargers make sense for Harbaugh. What about the fact that Eberflus is going back to Chicago? That takes it off. The coaching hires, it's never the big names. It's always these Jonathan Gannon types, right? There's going to be assistants.
Well, sometimes it's the big name.
Do you think that Belichick,
Carroll going to 49ers?
So you're telling me Belichick, Carroll, Harbaugh are all going to enter this, are all going to get hired? That's funny. Yeah. Then what? Then where are the hot assistants going to go? Where's Dan Quinn going to go? Dan Quinn
go to Seattle.
He'll go to Seattle. Okay, Dan Quinn back to Seattle. Where's Ben Johnson go? The Lions offensive coordinator.
We'll go to the Panthers or whatever. I don't know. I don't have all the answers of the Raiders.
Okay.
855-2124-CBS. Pete, you have an update.
Yes, I just wanted clarification on the wins with Shula.
Okay.
The number I gave, I believe, was regular season. For including playoffs, Belichick has 333 and Shula has 347. That's including playoffs.
Okay, so what's the
So
the
15,
math?
you were
Yeah,
right.
15. I thought I was right about it, but listen, I
What's
never want
the,
to step on Pete's toes.
I think is the record. What's considered the record? I guess both.
Probably
Both.
playoff. Well, probably playoffs.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Let's hit the phones. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. George is our pal in Los Angeles. Good morning, George.
Hey, good morning, guys. I enjoy the conversation. The thing about Belichick, he's a legendary coach, but the problem Belichick has in his reputation is Tom Brady. Tom Brady was there when he won all the championships, and Brady could play with any receivers to make them better. And nothing is Belichick, but I just think Tom Brady was a big factor because since Brady has left, Belichick is not really that good anymore. And not trying to put him down, but it is what it is, you know.
Yeah, George, I hear you, and I think that's a popular opinion these days. It's not one I'm going to get behind because I don't think Brady could have won everywhere. I don't think that if you had dropped Brady in Arizona, I'm just picking Arizona, but that's because that's what he said. If you had dropped him in Arizona, I don't know if you're getting 6 Super Bowls out of Tom Brady or 7. I think that it was the system that was perfect for both of them together, and I don't know why. Well, I get why it has to be a fight for credit because I think that's ultimately why the two of them broke up.
Yeah, and obviously Robert Kraft had a role in this. He was upset reportedly that Tom Brady won without him, and that maybe Belichick gave him bad advice at a certain point. I understand what you're saying, and I do agree. It's a marriage. It's the coach and the quarterback. One thing that Brady allowed him to do, Brady would be coached. He was not a diva.
Yeah.
So I think that helped Belichick coach everybody else. So that's a big part of this story as well.
Listen, the other thing that hurt Belichick was he had some key people behind the scenes who ultimately left. Who's the guy? Ernie Adams. Ernie Adams was somebody who was kind of a behind-the-scenes sort of mastermind for him. I think Dante Scarnecchia was the offensive line coach, remember, who was always with always with Belichick. And I just think that he did some fatal errors, which is he put some assistants into the wrong positions, like Matt Patricia and Joe Judge running an offense with a second-year Mac Jones. And I think that
which is ironically better than this year.
And I think, honestly, I think he's just not a great GM, and that's not a crime.
Well, you want to mention he put his son in a high position, too.
Put his son in a high position. So he's not the first coach to have nepotism in the NFL or anywhere, but these are a couple things that led to where they are today. There is not a dynasty without Belichick. And I don't know why that's so hard for some people to accept. Let's go to Gary, who's in Jacksonville. Hey, Gary, what's up?
Good morning, guys. I am a happy camper today, and I'll tell you why. The 3 coaches I absolutely can't stand are now gone out of coaching. Pete Carroll, for the way he left USC and ran for riches in the NFL, just a smarmy individual in my book. Nick Saban lying about, I am not going to be the Alabama coach, when he lied about when he was with my Dolphins. If you're not as good as your word as a man, to me, you're not a true man. And number 3, Bill Belichick for the grumpiness with the press and the spy game. I'm just so glad I don't have to see those 3 faces anymore. I am dancing today, guys.
Gary, you know what? Fair take. Thank you for that. Now, coaches lying is maybe I'm just so desensitized to it.
Belichick is the meanest press conference. Well, not the meanest, but he came from the Parcells mode where he intimidated the press or tried to intimidate the press with his full grumpiness. He's kind of mellowed out a little bit, but he has not been a nice man over the years. There's no doubt about that.
No, you know what's interesting, though? It's like I do find, I guess there's a difference to me, and maybe there shouldn't be because, I was critical of Bobby Knight, who just passed away. And, you can't tell the Bobby Knight story without talking about his, how intimidating he was and how he used that fear and how, he tried to control everything around him by using fear. And that's part of his story. He obviously crossed a lot of lines. And for Belichick, I guess because it's not to the degree of Bobby Knight, but it still is part of his story. I mean, he was intimidating.
Yeah.
He did try to intimidate reporters. I mean, it is part of it.
Okay, I'll agree with that. I don't care about the gates, though, the Spygate and Deflategate. He expertly distanced himself from Deflategate, so that's not even a thing.
He threw Tom Brady so fast under the bus with that. Yeah. He's like, you guys talk to Tom about that. He didn't even pretend to want any part of that.
Spygate doesn't kill me for him either. I would, listen, again, I wasn't even mad that Jim Harbaugh stole signs. Sign stealing, come on. It's not like, that is not why, and he didn't even win a Super Bowl that year. So that has nothing to do with his story.
I'm sure it didn't help on any of the other Super Bowls.
He's oh, come on. Big deal. That is not why they won. Yeah, you're right, because they got caught in 2007. It's not like he didn't have any success after that. They just went 16-0 the following season.
I think what we're trying to say here, and I get where Gary's coming from, that the one thing about Pete Carroll leaving, that was a really big deal at the time because USC was about to hit all these sanctions and Pete Carroll left. Now, he had already coached in the NFL with the Jets and the Patriots, so it didn't seem that odd that he'd go back. But still, he got a ton of criticism for that.
Killed.
I think what we're saying is these guys are great coaches. I don't think any of us are calling them perfect people. Now, I said Nick Saban never had a big college football scandal. I'm, like a big one, like talking about the, sanctions or getting wins taken away or all that stuff.
Yeah, but Saban's done right by a lot of people. He's got a better reputation than those other two guys, actually.
855-212-4CBS. But we're not calling them perfect people by any stretch. 855-212-4227. Coming up, literally the man who wrote the book about Nick Saban. Monty Burke wrote Nick Saban, The Making of a Coach. He has plenty of chapters in that book about the relationship between Saban and Belichick. So very fitting that Monty Burke's going to join us next. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Because I'm getting old, I guess.
You look good, though, Coach. You look good.
Look, I ask everybody that asks me that question, are you going to be here for 4 years? Some player that asks me, when you're going to retire, I look at them and say, well, can you guarantee me that you're going to be here for 4 years? And they look at me like, hell no, I'm not making it. Whatever, get a better deal someplace else. So, and I just think it's the way of the world now.
Wow, that was last week on the Pat McAfee Show. Nick Saban talking about his future. Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. So when we got the news that Nick Saban was stepping down at Alabama, the first person we thought about was our friend Monty Burke, who wrote the book Saban. Has written many New York Times bestselling books, including Lords of the Fly, the best tarpon fishing book of all time. The only one I have read, though, to be honest. But we immediately thought of Monty with Saban. Monty, how you doing? Were you surprised by Nick Saban's announcement?
I was totally shocked. My internet seems a little unstable here, but I'll keep going. He's still in his prime, right? I mean, this isn't. He nearly beat the team that won the national title. He's had a great recruiting year again. He's got Julian Sayin coming in, who's supposed to be the next, great quarterback. He was never going to retire like Bear Bryant retired and then croak 20 days later. He was never going to coach as long as Bobby Bowden did and start forgetting players' names and stuff like that. But I thought he had 2 or 3 more years in him. He had good recruiting classes. Like I said, he's got a good team returning next year. They're losing a couple defensive guys, but the offense is going to be very good. Defense is really good up the spine. So yeah, I'm totally shocked.
So, Monty, why do you think he is stepping away? If this surprised you and you know Belichick and his story better than anybody, why do you think he's doing it?
Unless there's some extenuating circumstances, he is 72. He just bought a big house in Florida. The love of his life, everyone thinks it's football, but it's really.
Oh, we're losing Monty there. By the way, I said Belichick. Of course, I meant Saban. We're talking with Monty Burke. He
my gosh.
The book Saban. Now I'm getting Belichick and Saban mixed up in my head.
Also, Monty, I think grew up in Alabama, lifelong Crimson Tide, knows the history of the program. He was about to tell us what the love of Nick Saban's life was.
Now, wait, cut out.
It's got to be Terry, right? Miss Terry, I'm assuming.
I don't know, like a
I'm
cover
dying to know
I
this
have no
era.
idea.
Monty, you left us hanging. What is the love of Nick Saban's life?
Miss Terry. You're right.
It's Miss Terry.
Yeah, I mean, they're high school sweethearts. Again, there might be some extenuating things that I don't know about here, but they're high school sweethearts. They've loved his life. They're both in their 70s. It might be time to go down to that beautiful new house they just bought in Jupiter, Florida, and live a sort of somewhat normal life. Being a football coach, as you guys know, is just insane. A college football coach, there's no off season ever. So maybe it's just time for them to step aside. He also might just be sick of this whole, portal, NIL, lack of commitment kind of age that we're in. And I wouldn't blame him.
Yeah. So the great love of his life, Miss Terry, the great friendship of his life is Bill Belichick. I don't know if you heard, Monty, that Belichick's parting way with the Patriots. In your book, Saban, there are so many great details about their friendship. Can you tell people who might not know, like, how far back do those two really go?
They go all the way back.
Oh, we lost Monty
him again.
Maybe we'll just try to get him on the phone.
Yeah,
could be a better connection. It is just so interesting. In some ways, like, I thought that Saban was going to retire. Something about him being more reflective, him being so positive about this team that didn't win. So many things that it seemed like he was taking stock of, of the moment and all of that. Things that, Saban famously would win the national title and be calling recruits that night.
Yep.
It was always about the next thing. And this guy never sleeps and he never stops. And it did seem like he was doing a little more stop and smell the roses. And that's why. But I never thought Belichick and Saban's news would both be coming down in a 24-hour span.
No. We have to ask Monty this. Do you think it's possible that they're so close that they talked about this and coordinated it in some sense? Like that Nick called Bill and said, hey, I'm walking away. What do you think?
I think that Saban would be, I think that he'd be more, I don't know, like understanding of that. I don't think Bill thinks about this stuff at all, even with a good friend. Like, here's the thing. Do you think Bill knows Saban's birthday?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, you think so? Okay. I'm never sure with men.
Monty wrote in his book that they used to actually go, the funny thing, they used to go to rock concerts together. They both sneak away from their coaching staff and go see like Leonard Skinner.
Also, Saban is famously Halloween, right? Is his birthday. So that's an easy one to remember.
Yeah. So, Monty, you were about to tell us about how far back Belichick and Saban go. We were wondering, too, do you think they coordinated this week at all? I know they're close.
I doubt they coordinated because I don't think Belichick's was up to him. Sounds like that was up to Robert Kraft. But I bet they're chatting. Maybe they'll go somewhere together. But no, it goes all the way back to, Bill Belichick's dad was at Navy, and Nick Saban was assistant coach at Navy, and it goes all the way back to that. They started hanging out. They were just like two football nerds. They really bonded over, talking about exotic blitz schemes, and they even hung out when they weren't supposed to hang out. They were on opposing teams, and they weren't, supposed to sort of mingle, and they would meet, halfway somewhere just to hang out for the weekend and drink some beer and talk about football. And then they of course they worked together at the Browns, which wasn't a very pleasant experience actually for Nick. I think they're very good friends. I could never see them working together again. I think that was a little tough on Nick. But it's so. I mean, what a week of football coach, retirements or leaving. I mean, Pete Carroll. I mean, Belichick and Saban. I mean, three of the best ever to do it. So just fascinating.
Monty Burke is joining us. He wrote a book about Nick Saban, literally wrote the book on Saban, Making of a Coach, is New York Times bestseller, has a lot in it about Nick and his relationship with Bill Belichick. And, it's funny because Saban now, it's like, what do you do from here, Nick? Monty, you said that, he could live a normal life. I don't think so. Is there any part of you that thinks Saban will still stay super connected to football? Maybe because the sport's about to change. Like, does he want to have any kind of influence in where the sport is going? Like, he can use his celebrity and his status as the greatest college football coach of all time, maybe to help legislation, to help with where we're going with the college football playoff. Do you think he totally unplugs?
That's just a great question. I mean, there was always a rumor. There was a rumor about 5 years ago that when he was going to retire, he was going to get a piece of an NFL team and sort of, dive into being the management side of the NFL team. But I don't see that anymore. He does have hobbies, believe it or not. He gardens. Not a lot of people know this. He's a gardener. He's a very avid golfer and a pretty good golfer. And he's a big time tarpon fisherman. So he may be able to keep himself busy with those things. It'd be hard to see that, but he may be able to just keep himself busy with his hobbies. But I don't see him going into any, being like Charlie Baker or something like that at the NCAA. I just think he sees that as there's just kind of a no-win situation, and there's not a whole lot that I don't think he would want to dive into the bureaucratic side of that. I'll put it that way.
Monty, right now, I think a lot of people think Nick Saban's the GOAT. Maybe the only challenge is another Alabama coach, Bear Bryant. How secure is his GOAT status? In 40 years, when college football fans look back at this era, is there no doubt that Nick Saban's still going to be at the top of that mountain?
I mean, unless Kirby wins 4 or 5 more real quick, I don't see anyone taking over for Saban. I mean, undeniably by the numbers, right? He's got 7 titles. Bear Bryant's next with 6. So kind of an undeniably the GOAT by the numbers, but also it's kind of the way I've always been most impressed by the way he did these things. I mean, he's been coaching just at his Alabama tenure, for instance. I mean, just the number of times he sort of had to adapt to something new. I mean, when he started at Alabama, power run game, big linebackers, and then spread offenses started eating his lunch. So he became the guy with the spread offenses, and all of a sudden has 4 quarterbacks in the NFL and a fleet of NFL wide receivers. NIL comes along, the portal comes along. I don't think he liked it at all, but he dealt with it. I mean, they got to the playoff this year. They're obviously very good. I think most impressive, though, when it comes to adaptability, was what he did with his assistants every year. I mean, I was looking back. He's had 7 different offensive coordinators since 2016. We're talking Kiffin, Dable, Loxley, Sark, O'Brien, and now Tommy Rees. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's not only college football has this sort of tidal nature to it anyway, that kids leaving and kids with the outgoing tide and kids coming in with the incoming tide, but he had to deal with assistants doing the same thing. I mean, and not just like wide receivers coach or, a kicking coach, his offensive coordinator, his defensive coordinator. And he just kept, adapting to it, hiring people. They weren't always great hires or whatever, but they always made it work. And so that always really, 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 really impressed me. And I think, again, it's not just the numbers. It's not just how it's just not just that he did it. It's how he did it, which always has impressed me.
Monty, last question for me, and that answer just sort of set this up. There are a lot of really talented coaches who have touched that program. Do you think that Nick Saban chose his successor, and ultimately, who do you think it's going to be?
It's a great question. I don't think the successor was in the building, so I don't think he chose the successor. I mean, if it is indeed Lane, and they seem to have a pretty good, still have a pretty good relationship. Maybe Lane Kiffin, I'm talking about, of course. Maybe he could tilt the scale there a little bit. But I think to me, it seems like from what I understand, it was just kind of a clean break. Like he's gone, and Greg Byrne, who's very good at this kind of stuff, who's the AD down there, is raring to go. And I think from what I'm hearing, we're going to know of a new coach here sometime between now and 2 days from now. So I would think, everyone always said Dabo was going to be Dabo from Clemson, Swinney from Clemson was going to be the man. I feel like that shine is off him a little bit. I think Kiffin definitely is a real solid candidate. Dan Lanning is a name that gets thrown around a lot now. He's done the right things over in Oregon. I always say, I had a buddy of mine email me last night. He's like, it's going to be Kirby Smart. That's not going to happen. How funny would that be?
It's going to be Kirby.
Yeah, I know. I was like, dude, you were dreaming, but so I would guess Lanning or Lane would be my 2 if I was a betting man. Those are the 2 I'd put my money on.
Now, Monty, you didn't want to plug anything, but I just want to tell people to buy Monty's book, Lords of the Fly, Madness, Obsession, and the Hunt for the World Record Tarpon. Quick tarpon question. Some dude stole a tarpon from the Bass Pro Shop a few weeks ago, and it went super viral.
Wait, is this the same guy who got naked in the Bass Pro Shop?
It's not the guy who got naked. But have you seen that guy who went in with a net and took a tarpon out? You know tarpon really well. They are unruly fish. Yep. What do you think? They haven't found that guy. What do you think he did with the fish?
I bet he released it. He was a big, staunch catch and release guy. I don't really know. That story. I was thinking about that story, and then all of a sudden the guy jumped into the Bass Pro Shop. And what a week or what a couple of weeks here for my old home state of Alabama.
Wait, were they both in Alabama?
Oh yeah.
The Bass Pro Shops was in Birmingham, and then the dude. I don't know if you saw the guy get stuck in the urn. He was also in Birmingham, and then this happens. This crazy days down there. Maggie, by the way, I have to say, very good, incredible foresight you had. I saw your tweet.
Thank you. Listen,
incredible. You got any Super Bowl picks you want to lay out for us here?
It's just me. I'm like Steph Curry,
numbers.
just shooting from the logo, Monty, and this one's squished. No,
I want her to tell me where Belichick's going, and
I
she
know.
won't do it. She knows, but she won't do it.
Got some information.
I said that the day I thought that Saban actually was going to retire was the day I found out he took his family on a trip to Italy. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Old Nick Saban would have never done that. And also that, he was talking too positively about everything. And it was not, hey, I'm on the phone calling recruits as the confetti is falling around me, winning another title. It was like, hey, I thought we did pretty well this year.
In retrospect, it's funny if you do. I'm sure someone will do this. They'll go look back at this year and maybe even the year before and sort of piece together some, like the trip to Italy, like Lane Kiffin after the game saying, it was great to compete against Coach Saban. I'm going to miss it. Like his little talk we had before with Kirby before the SEC championship, when he talked about being too old for this.
Right.
I mean, you could kind of put together maybe a timeline and be like, oh, okay, this actually kind of makes sense now. But man, I thought there was no way. I thought he was going to stay. I thought this team coming back next year is very good. It's the top 4 team, I would think. Could be anyway. And then he's got this quarterback who's supposed to be the next Bryce Young. So I don't know. I thought for sure he would stay till 75. But
well, if you're interested, I mean, listen, Monty literally wrote the book about Saban. So Saban, Making of a Coach, and it's fantastic. It's a New York Times bestseller. Monty, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Sorry about the internet troubles.
Oh, all good. I mean, sounds crystal clear. And then we'll see what's the next big headline to come from the state of Alabama. It's going to be who gets hired, and now we just have to wait and see.
No, I thought you meant who's going to do something in a Bass Pro Shop.
Everyone at Bass Pro Shops, lock the doors.
Nick Saban's a gardener? What the heck? Bill Belichick. Now, Bill Belichick does not do that.
Krzyzewski's a big gardener. Remember, we found that out.
Oh, my gosh. How can you go from the adrenaline being in the Final Four of college football to planting zucchinis next year?
It's meditative, Perloff,
It's just hard to imagine Nick Saban being settled. I think game day, obviously, is a natural connection.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Lee Corso has been a staple there as the coach, but obviously he's had some health concerns, and maybe Saban comes in for Lee Corso. I could see it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Do you think he'd put a mascot thing on his head?
No,
that's more the McAfee lane.
Yeah, McAfee kind of fills part of that lane, and then Saban is more serious. But listen, Nick Saban talks on TV. The guy has gravitas. There's no doubt he'd add to that show.
855-2124-CBS, or do you start a bidding war between him and Fox? Maybe
Fox has got Urban.
Yeah, but maybe Urban Meyer's going back to coaching. Who knows?
Yeah, you can't have Urban and Nick on the same set. That's way too much seriousness. You need a balance of light and, no. That would not be good.
No, there's nothing Matt Leinart can do to break that tension. He's on that show, right?
And Urban Meyer's best friends with Belichick, too. How about the three of them sit around and grumble at each other? Sorry.
855-2124-CBS. All right, went a little long there, so we're going to hold off. We're going to do our update with Andrew Bogish coming up next. Again, this is the news coming fast and furious that Bill Belichick and the Patriots are parting ways. That came down this morning. Obviously, the Saban news came down yesterday. And Pete Carroll also, no other way to say it, getting forced out in Seattle. We have all that for you next. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free. It's sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. We are talking about the big coaching news today, which is Bill Belichick and the Patriots are parting ways officially. Press conference is noon Eastern, and Nick Saban is retiring. And we talked about with Monty Burke, who wrote the book about Nick Saban. He's from Alabama. He said, wow, it really hasn't been like a banner week for my state. We're talking about the guy who got naked and jumped into the Bass Pro Shops pond. I had not seen the guy who jumped into an urn. You
guys didn't see this?
I don't know how I missed it, Ryan.
It's news to me.
Great. So a guy is at a wedding. I guess he got bet to jump into like a giant vase / urn.
Yeah, it's like a big, huge decorative vase.
Yeah, and his head, all that's left of him is his head. and he's like, I can't get out, and he's trying his best, and it's like that's like his waist up. So
yes,
it's like he has picture.
It's like he has no bottom half of his body. It's like he's the genie almost in Aladdin.
And he needs a wish.
Andrew Bogish is here with the headlines. Hi.
Hello. So, yes, the Belichick, the Saban news overshadowing Pete Carroll finishing his 14-year run with the Seahawks yesterday. 10 postseason appearances, 2 AFC titles, 1 Super Bowl win. When we hear from Belichick and Saban, will they be as emotional as Carroll was yesterday?
It's been an honor and a thrill to be part of this program, and I've loved every minute of it, and you've watched me love it.
Nobody used the word fired in Seattle, but this definitely was not Carroll's choice. And then I guess there was a meetup last night because Russell Wilson tweeted out pictures of him and Carroll, other Seahawks, with the caption, "Grateful for you, fun celebrating you tonight, and all the memories."
Yeah. Did anyone else see that? And it's like, all right, you tried to get him fired. Like,
I saw Richard Sherman in the back, fearing for Russell Wilson's life.
It's like he basically was like, it's either fire the coach, the general manager, or stick with me, was the reporting around Russell Wilson. And now it's like, congratulations, coach, on a great career.
Let's go to Outback.
Yikes.
Have a beer.
Yeah, but Tom Brady and Belichick have been doing the same thing.
I don't think Brady ever tried to get Belichick fired, though.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't think there was a riff there at the
There's
end?
a whole book about it. I read it by Seth Wickersham, but
they pretend that they're kumbaya now. Yeah, I did like. Listen, we got into Pete Carroll. What's the one thing you remember about Pete Carroll? That he didn't hand it to Marshawn, or that he found Russell out of nowhere, or that he had a great defense?
I think Legion of Boom is number one, but I think
promoting Russell Wilson over Matt Flynn was a huge deal. That was a rare stroke of genius.
It was amazing. And, winning on a rookie contract became like the thing to aspire to. Is that a poll question? What do you remember most? What will Pete Carroll be defined by? If this might not be his last coaching gig. He seems like he wants to keep coaching, almost just maybe to even rub it in the Seahawks' face.
Far from all of that, the NFL this morning gave us a glimpse at next season's international schedule. The Jaguars, Bears, and Vikings will host games in London. The Panthers in Munich. German officials have yet to comment on that. The Clippers down the Raptors last night, 126-120. They've won 16 of 19, and they've also locked up Kawhi Leonard long-term, a 3-year extension worth $153 million. Guys, back to you.
Bogish, thank you so much. That's interesting. The Jaguars are playing in London. Shocker.
Aren't they? They've already
committed
to every year.
Yeah.
But when you say German authorities haven't commented, meaning that they're like,
they're
are you giving us the Panthers?
Yes.
What kind of? With all the problems in the world, bringing Carolina to Germany is
the Panthers stuck in customs, turned around as they land in Munich.
Oh man, so this is big. Lots of news as Bogish gave you there. I mean, Belichick and Saban, Pete Carroll, 3 coaching heavyweights, and 2 that are considered the greatest of all time at their respective sports. And Pete Carroll, who you can make an argument might be the greatest coach to ever win a college football championship and also a Super Bowl. I know it's a very short list, him and Jimmy Johnson, but Pete Carroll has a lot of success.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, a little baggage with the USC part. If I had to rank those two,
because Jimmy was running a real clean program at Miami.
But if I had to rank
30
those,
out of it.
Jimmy was more of a revolutionary than Pete. Like Jimmy brought speed and all this crazy stuff to Dallas. I don't know. For me, it's Jimmy 1 and Pete 2 in that ranking. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah, that's probably right. Although a lot of football nerdy guys love Carroll too.
I mean, the Legion of Boom, the cover 3. It's not that he invented it, but I mean, perfected it.
Yeah, but I feel like everyone thought that if Jimmy wanted to stay in Dallas, first of all, give him that 3rd Super Bowl was basically Jimmy's Super Bowl. Switzer won it. I don't know. I think
about it, though.
A caller said Carroll leaving USC the way he did kind of tainted it a little bit.
Okay, but think about Carroll. You hand off to Marshawn Lynch there. You just beat Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in back-to-back Super Bowls. You don't think we're talking about Pete Carroll and putting a statue in bronze? He'll already have a statue, but I mean, that's a crazy what if. That's a one play. Maybe he is defined by that play because of what it would have done to push him into a different stratosphere if he had 2 Super Bowls and a championship.
But has there ever been a point where Pete Carroll was the best coach in football?
I mean, the Legion of Boom was scary.
I think
the Seahawks were a scary team.
I think there's no doubt who's the best coach of the 90s in the NFL. It's definitely Jimmy Johnson. See, where Carroll was always in Bill Belichick's shadow a little bit.
Yeah, but he would have. I mean, again, if he had handed off to Marshawn Lynch instead of passing and the interception by Malcolm Butler, maybe that's a lot closer.
Maybe. By the way, Belichick could win a 7th ring easily because now the rumors that the Eagles are looking at Belichick.
No, you're making that up.
Well, Belichick famously, I think everyone thinks that Belichick got Patricia to the Eagles, and he's close with Lurie, who's from Boston. So there's been, this is from Sheil Kapati on his podcast yesterday, that was talking about all the connections with Belichick.
Interesting. It's funny, you hear connections with Belichick and the Giants, obviously.
Yeah.
Not so much.
See, I don't see that. You said the Giants is a no-brainer. I don't think they're going to go back to that well. If he wants to win next year.
So that would only be if Brian Daboll, who's a former Alabama assistant, if he went to Alabama and that Giants job opened, Belichick slides right into the Giants. There's a lot of different ways this could all go down. 855-212-4CBS. What would get you excited for a successor at Alabama? Who do you think should be the successor for Belichick in New England? What about Pete Carroll? Does he find another job? Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's the reigning Fortnite champion. She's a Call of Duty legend. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Belichick's going to become the oldest coach, supplanting Tom Coughlin, who was 65 when he beat the Patriots in Super Bowl 46. And there it is. The dynasty continues.
That was the 6th Super Bowl for Bill Belichick. It was announced earlier this morning that he and the Patriots are parting ways after 24 years and 6 titles. Hey, welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Coaching news is the news today. With Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, they're going to do a press conference at noon Eastern today. We had Nick Saban yesterday announcing that he is retiring. As if that wasn't enough, Pete Carroll was also forced out as head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. It has just been nonstop with these coaching legends.
Don't forget another coaching legend in Chicago, Matt Eberflus is staying. Chicago's like, phew, thank God we got that out of the way on a busy day that we're keeping Eberflus.
Something tells me that wouldn't have broken through.
Yeah, no, but I think they're relieved that nobody's paying close attention to what's going on there.
Criticize it, right?
Yeah. Basically, the ownership's like, oh, phew, Carroll's gone, Belichick's gone. No one's going to talk about the fact that we seem to have no game plan whatsoever. But, again, that would have been Jim Harbaugh's spot. So now you put Harbaugh, Belichick, Pete Carroll. It is just an incredible, it's the most interesting, I think, coaching carousel we've seen in a while. Because usually it's just a bunch of assistants that you don't even know, like Mike McDonald from the Ravens.
Yeah.
Like he gets hired, you're like, oh, okay. But now you're looking at legends all over the place.
It is crazy. And I think they're connected, not just because Bill and Nick Saban are so connected. Not only did they coach together, but obviously they've been friends going back, 50 years have they been friends or something like that?
Definitely. Since the 70s.
So they've been friends for so long that in so many ways they're mirror images of each other. They were having success at the same times. And the fact that they would both be, Saban leaving the places where they became legends at the same time, Saban for retirement, Belichick for whatever comes next, is fitting. And you're right, because the dominoes that are going to fall from this might include both programs. Like they have multiple guys. They traded assistants, for many years. We have multiple guys with connections to both Alabama and New England. Like it is funny. I don't know if Bill O'Brien would be a candidate. I don't know about Brian Daboll, some of these dudes, but it is fascinating.
I don't get Daboll at all because does he have any real? I have to look at his background. I feel like he's a pro guy. He's not a master recruiter, is he?
Well, he won multiple national championships at Alabama.
But how many years did he actually coach there?
I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah, but like 3. And I don't think Bill O'Brien was head coach of Penn State for at least 4 years. Mm-hmm. So honestly, like Daboll doesn't seem to me like the master college football recruiter. Like he's not an heir apparent to Saban style wise. Feels a little gruff, feels like a real football coach. To be a college football coach, you need to be closer to Saban, a politician. And I don't see Daboll. So I don't see that as the one. Maybe Bill O'Brien.
So right now, to be honest, the Bill O'Brien odds pretty low, 80-1 according to betonline.ag. Oof. It's Dan Lanning, Dabo Swinney, and Lane Kiffin who occupy the top 3 spots. Deion Sanders and Kalen DeBoer both tied at 6-1 odds. That's fourth. So, it's interesting to me about Saban, the ultimate control guy, right? And the ultimate, he is the program. He's setting the standard. Belichick is this way too, but let's talk about Saban for a second. Setting the standard of his program, navigating through ever-changing waters in college football, being the face of the program, becoming the face of college football in general. It feels strange to me that he would have no say over who his successor would be. It does feel a little odd that, he would say, all right, that's it. I'm done with Alabama after 17 years and the most successful run that any coach has had at a school. And that's it. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye and good luck. That does seem a little odd, no?
Yeah, but as Monty Burke, the author of the book Saban, pointed out last hour, a lot of his guys have gone and they're so transitory. It's not like he has these guys who've been with him forever. Remember when Dean Smith retired and Bill Guthridge took over in the short term? I don't know who he goes to. It's not going to be Tommy Rees just got there.
No, it's not going to be Rees, and I know his defensive coordinator just retired.
Yeah, so who would it be?
Well, it's not
Lane?
that, but I'm just thinking behind the scenes, right? If Alabama is right in this, and our athletic director said they are going to have a new head coach in 72 hours, you don't start your search today and have a coach in 72 hours for this kind of decision. This had to have been made, whether the coach is currently at another school or not. This had to have been made in advance. It doesn't start. You don't get on the horn last night and say, "Hey, Dan Lanning, can I make an offer you can't refuse?" Come on.
Yeah, no, it is weird. I like to look at the trees too. Look at the former coaches. Steve Sarkisian would be great there. I think Lane Kiffin would be effective there. Dan Lanning, 1 year is a quality system, and Kirby and Dabo and Jimbo. But it's amazing. They're all in good position. Now, the Patriots guys, ironically, are all loose. Bill Belichick has a million choices of former coaches. McDaniels is out there. Vrabel's out there.
Yeah, but none of them,
Brian
besides
Flores
Vrabel, none of them have had a lot of success.
Flores is out there. I mean, there's so many guys. The entire tree. You're right. Whereas the Alabama guys have had a lot of success.
They're
Kirby
all
Smart.
in good jobs.
Yeah. So I don't think I believe that Nick Saban just doesn't care. I think he's ready to move on. Because you're right. What's he going to say? Is he going to call Dan Lanning and say, "Hey, I'm leaving. Would you do this?" Do you think he made that call and you think it was effective?
I don't know. It just, I think you become so synonymous with a place. And listen, let's talk about it. It's different what's going on right now with Belichick and Pete Carroll. I don't think Belichick wanted to leave the Patriots. It was a 4-13 season. Maybe he realizes it could be time to go, but he talked 4 days ago about how he still wants to coach the team. He's being forced to move on. Pete Carroll's being forced to move on. This is Saban on his own terms. And I think he's had to have known about it for a while because I think somebody as pragmatic as Nick Saban wouldn't make a big decision like this in the moment. He doesn't strike me as someone who wakes up one day and is like, you know what? Screw it. Been a good 17 years. I think I'm just going to call it quits. I'm sure he's been thinking about this for quite some time. He would never had a thought on who his successor should be. If you love Alabama, like you claim to love them, I think you want what's best and you want to have a say in who's next.
Okay, but is Nick Saban to Alabama what Coach K was to Duke? No, I mean, Coach K was at Duke for 45 years or something. Saban had success other places. I don't know.
17 years and 6 titles
Saban
makes you care?
Saban is not Alabama like Coach K is Duke or Jim Boeheim is Syracuse or Dean Smith was North Carolina. I think it's a little bit of a different case. 17, yeah, I mean...
it's a lot, Perloff.
It's a lot, but he's not synonymous with Alabama football. I don't think he really... Honestly,
You don't think that Nick Saban is synonymous with Alabama football? That sounds beyond crazy.
Not like Coach K was at Duke. It's a totally different thing. Coach K built Duke out of nowhere and was there for 4 decades.
Okay, but I guess this... Okay,
yeah,
he wasn't there as long as Coach K, but he...
Also, Alabama was Alabama is a thing unto itself. They don't need Nick Saban to hire their successor. They're Alabama football.
Okay, but they needed Nick Saban to resurrect the program.
To resurrect. But listen, they've won a lot of different ways through the years. They've had a lot of different great coaches.
Okay. I mean, we can agree to disagree on that. I guess it seems if you love a place, you don't want it to fall off. You don't want, it to take a step back.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't feel like Nick Saban is so invested in Alabama that he cares. Coach K is Duke. Nick Saban, Alabama is not Nick Saban, right?
I think to a lot of people he is.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's not
that cursive A and the elephant. There's so much tradition there. It's the most famous program of all time.
And because, listen, I know obviously they had Bear Bryant, they had Gene Stallings, they had other people who won there, but I think for now in the modern era, I guess, Saban is the guy.
I mean, certainly. I think the most iconic, Saban might be the GOAT, but the most iconic Alabama coach is obviously Bear Bryant. Bear Bryant is, and the jacket and the hat, that's Alabama too. But I think Coach Saban, he's 72, right? Like, he has all these assistants out there. First of all, if he chooses his successor, that means he's going to offend all his other former successors. And he has a problem. Like, he can't call Sark and say, leave Arch Manning at Texas and come here. So what's he going to do? I think he honestly said, hey, whatever you guys want to do, I'll support you.
Yeah, I maybe you're right about that. DT's in the chat said Saban carried the torch. He didn't light it. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. It certainly burned brightest, though, in the modern era, I guess. I don't know. Football is so different now than it was when Bear Bryant was coaching. I'm not trying to say just because it's new means it's better, but I do think that in some ways what he was dealing with, that to have this kind of success in this era, it just feels so much harder.
No, it's incredibly impressive. But Nick Saban 2006 was a Miami Dolphins coach. It's not like he isn't quite as synonymous with that program as some other coaches of all time. In the sense that I think he could let it go. I think he'd be like, okay, you guys figure this out.
Meanwhile, the odds, as I said before, Dan Lanning as the next head coach is the 3-1 favorite according to BetOnline.ag. Then Dabo, then Lane, then Deion Sanders, and I wonder, is it someone we haven't even thought of? Like, let's be honest, Dan Lanning is in a good spot at Oregon.
Yeah, what if it's Tommy Rees? What if it's somebody, maybe it's, exactly.
Someone who just got there?
Oftentimes when a legend retires, the next guy is kind of low profile. They don't always, to go to another big name like Deion would be unusual. I think the normal thing is you go from a legend to a lesser guy, and then you have a few down years, then you bring in another great guy. I don't think you usually go from A-list guy to A-list guy.
Let's go to the phones. 855-212-4CBS. Our pal Big Dave in Kentucky. Dave.
Maggie.
I
sincerely apologize for calling you an idiot months ago when you said Saban was going to retire.
Dave, I was going to let it go. I'm not someone to take victory laps on these kinds of things. You did say, except for maybe on social media, you did say it was like one of the rare times that you disagreed with me. So I'm wondering now if you'll, be back on Team Maggie.
Listen, I've never left Team Maggie, but I will never disagree with your savant predictions again. All right, so I'm like, when I wake up to this news, the first thing I asked myself was, like I'm trying to complete this sentence, Saban's retirement is the biggest retirement since. And, the first thing that most people, the first person most people's going to say is Coach K. But this seems like this is just so much bigger than that, because I think of the magnitude of the program and the individual success that he's had. So what would your guys' answer be to that? Would it be K, and you would agree that it's not, that this is so much bigger than that?
Dave, Coach K was way bigger. The sport's falling off a cliff.
Oh,
come on. College football is going to set all-time ratings records next year. Dave, college football is on fire, and it's going to be it's going to get more and more viewers. College basketball needed Coach K. I think it's a much bigger. Coach K was alone as famous college basketball coaches. What does college football care if Nick Saban's there or not next year? They're going to be huge anyway.
Maggie, help me. Help me here.
Dave, name a college basketball. Name a famous college basketball coach. Who jumps to mind? I mean, it's a bunch of nobodies now. Okay, he's on his way out too, probably. I mean, at a certain point soon. You got his Calipari?
No, but I'm trying to think.
But I don't understand your philosophy.
Well, just that Saban, college football.
Maybe your definition of impactful, big, huge is different in this case somewhat. Mine is, are you going to tell me college basketball never skipped a beat? When K retired. Ooh. I mean, Shire steps in. Well, they haven't. And it's not like it was dominant.
I don't know. I think Duke is definitely fallen off, and I think college basketball needs Duke. They're like the Yankees of the sport, where Alabama, I'm not quite sure it's the same thing.
So I think both guys are dealing with something similar, which is their sport around them is changing so much. Like, you saw the Final Four last year. San Diego State, Miami. I mean, it's like all these different teams. I don't know if we're getting these dominant dynasties anymore. College basketball, that's been gone for a while. And I think college football is going to be the same. So I don't think you're going to have guys who, like Coach K, 5 titles, like Nick Saban with 7 and 6 at Alabama. I just don't think that kind of sustain. Maybe Kirby Smart's the last guy who could have that. And the talent is just spread so much all over the country now. College basketball for sure. And now with college football. I'm saying, I think biggest retirement probably since Coach K, which wasn't that long ago. Roy Williams probably right before that. And we'll get Greg Popovich at some point, which will be a massive retirement.
I don't disagree with what you're saying.
I do.
But much of what you're saying is because that the landscape of sports in general the target's moving.
Yeah.
It will never be the same as it was at one time. But I'm just saying, when we're talking about, this is impactful.
Dave, I'm sorry. There's another one, but it's not Coach. It's Tom Brady.
Well, yeah. That's a great point.
Well, LeBron will be big,
and
too.
LeBron's going to be massive, too.
But Coach K meant more to his sport than any of those guys, because maybe LeBron. But those sports are college football is ascending, Dave. Do you think anyone is going to care at all coming into next year? There's any less excitement because Nick Saban's out there?
Tell me how college basketball is ascending.
No, college football is ascending. College football is ascending. College basketball is dying.
I would argue the opposite. Because of the 12-team playoff, the advent of that coming on. I would argue the exact opposite. I think that college football moves the needle much more right now than college basketball does. And I'm in the middle of Kentucky.
I know. That's what I'm saying. College football is on fire.
You guys are on the same page on that one, David.
No one's going to even notice Saban's not there next
Well, that's
year.
what Pearl's saying is like the sport is in such a good space that they can afford to lose a heavyweight titan like Nick Saban, and ratings are going to be as high as ever, and interest will be as high as ever, whereas Duke, moving on from Coach K, really hurt the sport. They don't have this guy anymore. Man, can you imagine if Jay Wright's listening to our show? He's got to be like, come on, guys. I just retired also.
Listen, last quick point.
Yeah.
McLovin, to counter your argument about K. The year that they won it all was Zion and all when they won the national championship. With what's considered the greatest recruiting class in the last 40 years. Remember when Coach K won it all with Zion in that class?
Yeah, right. I was about to say Zion. Come on, he's got one letter, dude. He's Coach K. You're saying Jay Wright is in the same stratosphere? No way. Nobody even. And Greg Popovich, by the way, you guys are right. He's going to retire, and the average fan is going to say, Greg Popovich was still coaching? He is not in the picture at all anymore.
Interesting stuff. Dave, you gave us a lot to chew on there. Thank you so much for the phone call, and hope everything is well. We've had some bigger retirements, too. I know maybe not on the level in this country of Nick Saban, but like Roger Federer, Serena. We've had some really big athlete retirements. It wasn't just Tom Brady.
Roger Federer's retired. I didn't even.
It's such a shame.
Wait, did he definitely retire?
He definitely retired.
Because Nadal's holding on until he's.
Yeah,
I don't know what that guy's doing. Remember Coach K's last game? It was Jerry Seinfeld and Ken Jeong and all this. Don't underestimate the impact of that. And there's certainly nothing. Jay Wright and Bill Self are good coaches, but Coach K was a national event.
No, I get it. Is that a poll question?
No, because
the bigger retirement, Coach K, Nick Saban?
Okay, I guess you could say that. But college football is going to be great with or without Nick Saban. College basketball has a lot of issues.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay, so we're trying to fill these roles. Who takes over at Alabama now that Nick Saban is retiring? Who takes over in New England with Bill Belichick and the Patriots officially parting ways? The press conference is set for later today. And then in Seattle, it's interesting who gets that Seahawks job, no doubt. But Pete Carroll, very adamant. I'm not tired. I'm not worn out. I'm 72, but I feel great. Listen, if Belichick's going to get another job, why wouldn't Pete Carroll get another job?
I think someone's going to have to take the Carolina job. Maybe it's Pete Carroll.
Feels like a consolation prize.
Well, I don't see the Chargers. The that's the thing. All these, there's a big argument to be made for youth. Like, don't you want to find the next Pete Carroll, the next Bill Belichick? If I'm an owner, I could easily be sold of, I'm going to give you 15 years of greatness. How long can Belichick do this? How long can Pete Carroll do it?
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. You are welcome to weigh in on all of the coaching changes here. Massive day. Glad to have you with us. It's Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Go from the 2. Toss sweep right for James White. Pucks it under the right arm. Puts it upfield. Driving forward. Diving to the goal line. A touchdown. And a title for the Patriots.
I can't believe it.
They have completed the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history.
Bill Belichick and the Patriots parting ways after 24 years. We have all these memories, including that one, the comeback over the Falcons. That was the first Super Bowl that ever gone to overtime, too. A lot going on. Welcome back to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. CBS Sports Radio, we're catching you up on all the latest news coaching-wise, which, again, Belichick parting ways. According to Adam Schefter and Mike Reese, looks like Atlanta is the front runner to land
For
Belichick.
now.
And our pal Carl Dukes in Atlanta does a fantastic job. The highest rated sports talk show in Atlanta, said, no, like, oh no, Carl, you don't want Bill Belichick. And then on the Patriots side of things, they're saying Gerard Mayo is the in-house candidate. But Josina Anderson saying that, it's still very wide open.
So I'm too busy reading about, I guess Belichick is having a love affair with Howie Roseman in the press all year. And the Eagles took on Patricia, much like the guy in Vegas took on Fredo in Godfather. So the Eagles and Belichick have this flirtation.
Mo Green?
Mo Green took on Fredo. The Eagles took on Patricia for Belichick. I think that the rumors are heating up. I mean,
Do you remember what happened to Mo Green?
Yeah.
Didn't end well for him.
Just like if Howie takes on Belichick, so Howie, the Eagles GM. It's interesting to me, too. The Eagles, Sirianni is obviously on the hot seat now, which is insane to me because he's been in the playoffs 3 straight years. Everybody wants Vrabel. Every opening, no offense to Belichick, everybody kind of wants Harbaugh, but Vrabel. I hear Vrabel. Every fan base, Atlanta probably wants Vrabel too.
Yeah.
Name a fan base, and they're like, that guy's young, and he's got a lot of Belichick qualities anyway. I'm in them. I'm like, give me that guy. I want him in there yelling at people, being a tough guy. Let's go.
Let's get to Andrew Bogusch and his update because there is no chance in HE double hockey sticks that Perloff is going to hijack this Belichick story and make this about the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm with Carl Dukes, by the way. I don't want Belichick.
Okay, but he's not going to Philly.
And it doesn't matter. You're not an Eagles fan anymore.
Why would you go
abandoned
Chiefs
them.
fan.
But what everyone's I know Atlanta was in that tweet, but why not say the Chargers? Why not say the Eagles? Why not say the Cowboys? Like, listen, this Belichick thing is we're at the beginning of this story.
No, I think that there are going to be other teams that are involved.
Yeah, there's got to be a market, right?
I'm not letting the city of Philadelphia hijack the Belichick Patriots parting ways today.
When they have a head coach and they're in the playoffs.
I think that's a really interesting sentiment, though, from Carl. He does not want Bill Belichick. I get that. I mean, you want to build a champion. Dude's 72. You need a ready-made champion for him. You need the Chargers. Otherwise, I'm not excited about it.
The only thing that I'd be a little curious about with Belichick in Atlanta is, one, are they still going to fire the GM or is he going to get to stay? Because he survived Arthur Smith getting fired. And is Belichick going to pick the quarterback?
I've already forgot the GM's name again in Atlanta.
Terry?
Yes.
Terry Fontenot.
I should know
Pronounce an O.
I think I know the other 31 GMs, and I didn't know who Terry Fontenot was until he fired Arthur Smith.
You actually know all 32 GMs?
I think so.
Okay, we're going to do a quiz in the break. And
think
we're
so.
going to see. I think I can do it too. I think all three of us fill in how many general managers can you do. Well, some of them are vacant right now. Like there's no Chargers GM right now. But we'll do as many as we can. We'll put
if
on
you can
social.
spell the Vikings GM's name right, you have to
No
spell
way.
the name right.
Oh, wait, you have to spell the name right. It's not Jeopardy.
Specifically his name.
I know. It's gonna be tough.
Okay, but I said that's like half a right answer because I know what his name kind of is, but I know I'm going to mess it up. I definitely can't spell it, unfortunately.
I'm gonna give it we'll do this in the break. We'll put on social media. Who can name the most NFL GMs? Me, Perloff,
or Pete
Bogusch. No cheating, everybody. No looking it up.
By the way,
hands off your computers right now and phones.
By the way, how are we not overlooking Maggie saying HE double hockey sticks?
No, now all of a sudden I'm getting.
Did you dump that?
Demure.
Almost.
Meanwhile, I was spelling out actual curse words. 2 days ago. You never know what you're going to get with me. Yes.
They have been connected for so long, it is fitting. Their job status changes at the same time. Nick Saban retiring from Alabama yesterday. Bill Belichick leaving the Patriots today. 24 years, 6 Super Bowl titles. But as we know, the post-Tom Brady era has not gone well. Belichick apparently wants to keep coaching, and at least a few teams will be interested, namely those Falcons. Meanwhile, back in Foxborough, maybe Gerard Mayo is the frontrunner to replace Belichick. In Tuscaloosa, Tide AD Greg Byrne said last night, we should not believe anything about their search unless it comes from him, and he will not speak again until he's announcing their choice. Honorable mention goes to Pete Carroll. His 14-year run in Seattle ended yesterday by ownership's choice. The Seahawks said Carroll would stick around as a consultant, but it certainly seems like he wants to keep coaching. The Jaguars, as always, plus the Vikings and Bears will play next season's games in London. The Panthers will be the host team in Munich. Their opponents, the dates of those games will come out in the spring. The NBA, meanwhile, is across the Atlantic right now. That's right. The good folks in Paris getting set for the Cavaliers and Nets tipping off at 2 Eastern time, which I believe is an 8 p.m. tip-off in Paris. The Cavs are good. The Nets are not.
Nobody cares.
Not even a little
so
bit.
underreported and no one's talking about it.
Like last hour, you gave us the possible matchups for the NFL games in Munich and London or whatever. We're all over this when the NFL goes somewhere. NBA, not so much.
Although I feel the NFL Mexico City game is under the radar, and baseball played in Mexico, maybe not in Mexico City last year, and I didn't know about it until I gave the score the next morning. I don't think...
Like, why is this highlight in Spanish?
Yeah, I don't think the teams... I don't think the leagues... Like, those games are for Paris. They're not for us. Like, they don't need to tell us it's happening today.
Here's the other part. How do you have a game in Paris and not have Wembanyama in the game?
Yeah. I mean, maybe you planned it before the draft lottery.
Possibly.
They should have waited.
Got to be why.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan, wait. Like,
well, I mean, listen, is Evan Fournier playing? There are a few French players, aren't there?
No, of course.
Not Evan Fournier. Is he on the Cavs?
He's
not on the Nets.
I don't think he's on the Knicks anymore. I have no idea where
Boris Diaw, he's French.
Onyx.
I just like, this is insane. It's like, all right, we're going to play in France. Oh, are you having the most famous French basketball player of all time playing? No. Just the Nets and the Cavs.
No, just Royce O'Neal.
Cool.
Karis LeVert, is he a Cavalier still?
Yes.
You know, they're all going to buy so much. I bet they'll buy crazy stuff like Louis Vuitton, Paris shopping. All right, back to you.
Speaking of Wembanyama, he did something last night that even Chet Holmgren can't do. 16 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists in just 21 minutes. The second fastest triple-double in NBA history.
Doing it to win is everything, of course, and it matters to me, I'm not the type to talk for nothing, so it's this is the kind of statement we want to make as a team, and this is the kind of statement I want to make as a player also.
He and the Spurs getting win number 6, 130-108 in Detroit, because that's loss number 35 for the Pistons. Men's number 3, Kansas, came up short at UCF 65-60. 5th-ranked Tennessee, a 77-72 loss at Mississippi State. And number 9, Oklahoma, an 80-71 loss at TCU. That makes 5 top 10 teams losing in the last 48 hours. And somehow we are still on this Cutter Gauthier story in Philadelphia. If you're not up to speed, Gauthier is a big-time prospect, the 5th pick 2 years ago, recently decided he did not want to play for the Flyers. So, out of the blue, to the rest of us, they traded him to Anaheim this week, and the smear campaigns began. A Philly podcast suggesting that former Flyer Kevin Hayes told Gauthier to stay away because Hayes didn't get along with head coach John Tortorella.
Is the guy here, the guy here that caused Kevin Hayes a problem?
Yes.
You?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Do you think Kevin Hayes is going to do something like that?
Any last questions?
Person letting the first 2 buy him.
It pisses me off that you guys throw that around and affect someone's life.
That's Torts last night, a 3-2 shootout win over the
Waiting for the
Canadiens.
cursing.
He walks into the room and calls out Anthony Sanfilippo, who was the podcast host in question, and then all that ensues.
He just goes, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I'm here. Present.
I actually give the podcaster credit because when you say stuff like that, it is good form to show up right after and kind of be accountable in person.
But when he walks in, the head coach, and angrily asks if you're there, I probably start to leave at that point.
Oh, do you remember Tortorella? I'm sure he's done this every city, but I remember obviously in New York where he famously feuded with Pat Leonard from the Daily News.
Yes.
Stop trying to coach the team, Pat. It's great. Great all-time clip.
I would go to Ranger practices sometimes when he was the head coach, and one time, maybe the first time, I went to the wrong entrance to their facility. I went to the players' coaches one, so I had to back up. As I look back, he's behind me, and I'm expecting to get shot in the head. But he was just very nice and moved out of the way from me. Wow, I guess we're okay, not at the rink. Not angering Torts.
By the way, done all 32 GMs. Done.
Okay, I'm not done because I was trying to also listen to Bogus's update.
I wasn't, except when he said Flyers, I kind of tuned in. 32 out of 32, unless I'm... because
there aren't 32 right now.
Right, so I just put the team name if they're not...
Okay.
And it was easy.
And you got Fontenot.
Well, I knew that. We've been talking about Fontenot.
I think he's the guy that I can name Scott Fitter in Carolina, Telesco in LA, the guys that are gone. I can name those. I would not have known Terry Fontenot until Sunday night.
I got to be honest, there was one team that's I'm stuck on, but I'll just say, there's one team that I'm curious how we all approach.
Yeah, there's one that I can't figure out.
And I was thinking to myself, they don't have a GM, right? Isn't that, I think it might be the same team.
What are you doing with New England? Bill's
I left that blank.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So if they fire their GM, which is Bill, then you just leave it blank.
Okay.
But there's one team. I'll say.
I'm with you, and I think we're gonna write down the same thing.
Yeah, the rest were easy. You're right. It was
Does
super
it rhyme
easy.
with Cincinnati?
Yeah, it was Cincinnati. Is Mike Brown technically the GM?
So I wrote Mike Brown. Don't say it now. We're doing it in the break.
Yeah.
855-212-4.
But he's not really the GM. Can we say owner
it's
GM?
Not Katie Blackburn. I mean, how deep on the depth chart?
Well, they have a really well-known Duke Tobin, but he's not the GM, right? I don't know. Anyway, this is the fun stuff we do at breaks. The sports nerd idiots that we are.
All right, I got to get right in here. Maggie and Perloff, more reaction to the big coaching news of the day. Bill Belichick and the Patriots parting ways, Nick Saban retiring after 17 seasons in Alabama, and Pete Carroll is out as Seahawks head coach. I put up a poll on my own, by the way. I pulled a move from Perloff. The better NFL/college coach, like the guy who did both. Pete Carroll, 2 national championships and 1 Super Bowl, or Jimmy Johnson, 1 national championship and 2 Super Bowls. It's very close. You thought it would be a landslide with Jimmy Johnson, Perloff? 52-48 for Jimmy Johnson, with Pete Carroll gaining rapidly. It's not that cut and dry.
Let it go, Maggie.
No, I will not. Let it go. This is my job, is to not let it go.
I just feel like you're a little overpassionate about this particular debate.
I'm passionate about
Nick
all of them.
Saban retired, Bill Belichick left. Yeah, yesterday we were doing, what was the thing we were doing? I think I won this one. The greatest asterisk.
The great debate.
I won, didn't I?
Of course we're in a debate to win it. What are we just talking? 855-2124-CBS. More on the coaching changes next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Alabama Crimson Tide, with 12 seconds to go, taking a knee. Bama will win 45-40. And for the 16th time ever, and for the 4th time in 7 years, the Alabama Crimson Tide is the champion of college football.
Going down memory lane here today as Nick Saban announced he was retiring yesterday, and then, not to be outdone, Bill Belichick announced that he and the Patriots are parting ways. Before all that happened, Pete Carroll, in an emotional press conference, was forced out by the Seattle Seahawks.
Let's not disrespect the big coaching news. Matt Eberflus is back in Chicago.
We have plenty of time for Eberflus because Eberflus
Who
is
doesn't
out.
fit? Who doesn't fit in this list of coaching names? Carroll, Saban, Belichick, Eberflus.
Who has a job?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the one with the job, ironically.
And the number 1 overall pick, It's funny. So Eberflus is in. They fired the rest of the entire offensive coaching staff and didn't exactly make a big commitment to Justin Fields yesterday.
No, it's interesting. I mean, they left the door open, but the fact that they left the door open says to me, if you're even thinking about going with Caleb Williams at number 1, you're already too far down the road. You're going to do it. It just seems like that's the inevitable direction this franchise is going.
I can't imagine a franchise passing on the number 1 overall pick 2 years in a row when you don't have a sure thing franchise quarterback. That's no disrespect to Justin Fields, but I mean, even Fields himself would say he hasn't played like a no doubt franchise quarterback.
Well, also, too, it's a much different situation because Caleb Williams is a bigger prospect than Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud was. Also, Justin Fields is getting closer to that contract. And you've always said that's the real issue with Justin Fields. It's not even talent. It's the fact that they're going to have to pay him and they haven't seen enough. So it's a tough spot. I feel like that's going to be overly negative towards Justin Fields. But the reality is you want that rookie deal.
Now the big question as we, especially for Saban because he is retiring, as we go through his career and he is the greatest college football coach of all time, I think that is a moniker that's going to stick. Perloff thinks, you're only as good until the next guy comes and chases you down. And you'd be right, for the history of sports. I just think college football is changing so much. It's just dynasties aren't going to happen the way that Nick Saban was able to preside.
Well, the funny thing is, even if Kirby Smart somehow gets 7 titles, nobody's going to think Kirby Smart was a greater coach than Belichick. And Saban. Saban was there first. And Kirby Smart doesn't have the gravitas of a Nick Saban.
Well, he was Saban's right-hand man for almost a decade.
It's almost like he's following in the footpaths of Saban. So being first of this era, I think you could, I'm not sure what year it is, but we're in a modern era of college football, which makes it more incredible what Saban did. But then again, you will probably argue by your logic, you said it's going to be much harder to win titles. So if some guy can get through this 12-team playoff and win a bunch of titles, you might make the argument that it's more impressive than what Saban did because Alabama was basically gifted to go into the title game at certain times.
You're right about that. And, to be honest, in the last 10 years, so 10 years of the college football playoff, Alabama's been a part of 8 of those with Nick Saban. And you had to win. I'm not saying it's easy. No, don't get me wrong. But you had to win 2 games. Now it's going to be more than that, plus your conference championship. It's just a lot more potential roadblocks on the way to a title.
Why do you have to win the conference championship?
Well, I
guess it doesn't matter. I mean, Ohio State lost to Michigan and almost got.
I guess I'll say that you're going to have a very difficult game in the conference championship. In theory, you're going to be playing another ranked team, most likely, which is something that Nick Saban had to do often in the SEC. I mean, he's usually playing a ranked team.
But I mean, on the flip side, the conference championship's the reason he got in this year because it gives you one more chance. With 12 teams, that's one good thing about whoever follows in Alabama. It's going to be a lot easier to make the playoff. I think you and I see this 12-team playoff differently. I think coaches are going to do well with this because they can turn to their fan base and say, hey, at least we made the postseason. Right. So that gives you a big advantage. I think coaches are actually going to get more longevity out of this. Deion's at a great spot because he's in the Big 12. He doesn't have to be the number 1 team. He just needs to get there.
Yeah, you're right. It could be easier in a sense because you're going to be in the dance. I think it's just harder to win said dance.
Yep.
But I don't think it's an accident that Nick Saban's not waiting around for that 12-team playoff. I think there's a lot of things that went into this retirement, but it does feel like, I don't want to call it a clean split or something, where obviously I think he doesn't look at it that way because if he thought it was so easy now with the 12-team playoff, wouldn't he have said, all right, I'm going to stick around at Alabama?
I don't understand. That's the part that surprises me. He's going to be sitting there next year with Jalen Milroe, a quarterback that he developed in the playoffs. You don't think he's going to say to himself, oh, man, I could have been coaching this team because they have a great chance to win next year. They're number 2 or 3 in all the odds. I think it's going to be hard for him when this goes down. What if Alabama wins a title next year? Would that weaken Nick Saban's GOAT status?
Listen, no, this is not going to sound like watching Jalen Milroe play football is a wild ride. Maybe it's sent Saban into retirement. I mean, there's so many. Has so many great gifts and talents as a quarterback, but sometimes the plays are maddening as well. I don't know.
Dude can run. I mean, that is. Whoever I can design an Alabama offense, 3 steps back, then take off. I mean, listen, they barely threw the ball at all this year, and we're in the Final Four and almost in the title game. They're in a great spot. So the next coach, it's an attractive job for sure.
Do you think that if Jalen Milroe doesn't pull out the miracle play of Gravedigger against Auburn, they lose the Iron Bowl, do not make it in the college football playoff, does Saban retire?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you think this was coming no matter what?
Definitely, because what about losing in the Final Four would make it easier to retire?
Well, I think you said it earlier in the show. Compared to Belichick, this is going out on top. I mean, Belichick's coming off of a 4-13 season. Now, I think he's still going to have plenty of suitors for his next job, but you even said it. Yep. Like Saban going out with this team, yes, he lost in overtime to Michigan, but it still feels like going out on top.
No one goes out on a high. It's so rare. John Elway went out winning the Super Bowl, but even Tom Brady had a crappy last year. I remember Favre had a good second to last year that had a crappy last year. I hate to say Aaron Rodgers is most likely going to go out on a bad year.
Peyton Manning, I know you don't count it, but he did go out on a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he had 9 touchdowns and 17 picks. The worst year of his career by 500-fold.
Yeah.
Nobody goes out on top. That's why, again, full credit to you to call this, because the logic says, why would Nick Saban leave now?
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. So you've got Saban moving on. Who fills that role? Odds-on favorite right now, Dan Lanning from Oregon. And I feel like the Oregon fans, I don't think you have to be nervous. I don't think he's leaving. I know coaches say lies all the time, but he told you a couple weeks ago, I'm not leaving this job. I love this job. And I maybe I'm the sucker. I kind of believed him.
Yeah, the only reason I would leave if I was the Oregon coach is because the Big Ten, all that weather and all that travel sounds annoying. I mean, the connections to get to some of those Big Ten schools.
All that weather.
Do you really want to go to Iowa in November? I don't love this Big Ten match for them.
Imagine Oregon against Iowa. That would be so lopsided. Okay, Bogish has hung around because aside from Saban and Belichick and Pete Carroll, we had other very important business. How many general managers could Perloff and I write down?
I just need Perloff's weird handwriting and pen for a second to just triple confirm everything.
Okay.
But you guys in general, you did very, very well.
Did I get one wrong?
You got one wrong. You thought the Titans' job was still
that
vacant.
was an oversight. We spent an hour talking about
Rand Carthen.
It's Rand Carthen.
We spent an hour talking about Rand Carthen.
Doesn't matter.
And I wrote it down.
I knew it. I knew who that GM was.
Except you didn't, because you wrote it was blank, so that doesn't count.
Oh, God, that's cheating.
I also need you to confirm, because now that we've had all submissions submitted, what is this name at the bottom? The last of the AFC North teams. What does that say?
Eric DeCosta.
Okay, fine. Just making sure. So that's good for you. Now, one team of contention, the Cincinnati Bengals, they technically have a director of pro personnel.
Duke Tobin. Yeah, but he's not a GM.
Who did you write down?
So
I wrote down Mike Brown.
Oh, I wrote Bengals. I mean, yeah, you could say Mike Brown. But.
So I'm going to count that as wrong for both of you.
Oh, do they have a GM?
I mean, he is the person that would be the GM. His title is not GM, but he does exist, and he does have that role of roster building for the Bengals.
They probably give him that weird title so they don't have to pay him. But you didn't write it down on the sheet.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
And Maggie wrote Mike Brown, so that's also wrong. Maggie also has, much to his chagrin, Chris Spielman hanging on in Detroit. That is not true. The Lions GM is a gentleman, I think, named Brad Holmes.
We just talked about Brad Holmes.
Yes.
But Chris Spielman is the next... He's really making the decision.
Yeah. So that's...
Brad Holmes is really like the hottest GM in the league right now.
He's a former
Brad Holmes
Patriot.
is like the genius of the moment.
Perloff got it.
You
Chris
talked
Spielman.
about him the other day. You can't claim that Spielman's really the GM. Because you talked about Brad Holmes on the show. That's why I can't believe.
I had a brain freeze and I put Chris Spielman. He's like the second in command.
Otherwise, that's it. So either you got one wrong, you got two wrong apiece, however we count the Bengals. So you guys got 30 of 32.
I said Duke Tobin last second.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
and
matter.
He's not the GM. So
it
that
doesn't matter.
You would have marked me wrong for that, too.
I mean, I don't believe the Commanders have... Well, I don't know what Martin Mayhew's actual title is, but we're giving him credit for being the Commanders GM. So
I got that one.
Yes. So we're good.
He's technically still there until, 5 minutes from
Correct.
now.
Wait. So I got that wrong? I didn't put anything for the Commanders. They're interviewing GMs.
At the end, in overtime, Maggie gets a win with one less incorrect answer. Because she does have Martin Mayhew, and you have the Commanders as blank. Wow. So Maggie wins.
I knew Martin Mayhew because we were just talking about it with Bob Myers. They said they have not fired them. They're still there.
And since this began with me saying, I think I know everybody but Terry Fontenot, it would have taken me a second to get to Omar Khan in Pittsburgh, but I would have gotten there. and I would not have done the correct justice to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah in Minnesota.
You know who had the hardest time?
Mensah Bonsu was in my head because me and Maggie keep talking about GW men's basketball.
Yes, legends.
The hardest one for me was Eric DaCosta. I could not remember him for the life of me. There is no more low-profile, awesome GM in the history of the Eric DaCosta could walk in right now, and I wouldn't know who he was.
Oh, you would.
Eric DaCosta?
He was the hand-picked.
Yes, I know. It's Ozzy's team still, ironically. That to me, he's the lowest profile.
And they also get an A for every draft.
Right. Yeah, I know.
No matter what, for the Ravens, you get an A.
You would know what Eric DaCosta looked like?
Yeah,
That's
he's white and bold.
Is he running our board right now?
Like everyone else who works here.
Where I'm going next.
And Mickey Loomis, still the Saints GM, almost tripped us up, me and the two Andrews.
No, I had that one.
Hanging on for dear life.
He was in the news lately.
It's a lifetime contract. Okay.
But he's not the Pelicans GM anymore.
I don't think so.
No, David Griffin. Thank you to Ryan Botcher. I think he's still there. Thank you to Pete Vellotti. Thank you to Andrew Bogish and Andrew Kaplan. Guido's in full effect today. The callers. More news tomorrow, I'm sure, on the coaching front. Enjoy your day.
You're in a 5-minute break.